first episode, season 2. What the heck just happened? Like, I think I need to watch that again. I'm so lost, man. I was like, man.
That's a cold opening for a show. Welcome, folks. Yes, Legion is one of those shows. It doesn't matter what you bring to it, it's still going to confuse you. And I'm a fan of David Lynch, and even it boggles my mind when dealing with Legion. So it's one of those things, it's easier to watch as a whole once everything's said and done.
This is true.
Because it's kind of tough, especially week to week. It's one of those, like, I think I'm having a stroke, like I'm smelling burnt toast,
It's one of those shows perfect for binging.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
That's something that you're gonna have to definitely do in one sitting, because I keep eyeballing the first season, and I'm like, is this worth it? Is this worth it to watch? But after what Braylon just said, it's like, you know what, I may have to check this out. If it's one thing that I love is no context, and next to that is non sequiturs.
It's definitely one of those shows. I think when I first started watching episode 1, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna stick with this. Then once I got to episode 2, I was like, okay, all right. And then by the time I got to episode 3, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm hooked. So I think it definitely is. It's a slow burn, but in a good way, because it's one of those things. It throws everything at you at once, and it uses the whole season to kind of explain everything and answer the questions, if that makes sense. It's like,
it had me sold when they did the Bollywood dance number in the first episode.
You told me that.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm sold, because it was one of those things. And then the whole deal with it. It was just such a great. It's so different than the X-Men movies. Is my favorite outside of the animated series from the 90s. And even Logan. I love Logan. Don't get me wrong, but Legion is like my favorite live action X-Men anything, because even though it's barely X-Men, it's still more. It's more appropriate. It's better X-Men mythos than all the other stuff. But speaking of X-Men, and speaking of Legion, which he first appeared in New Mutants, and that kind of ties into the Eastern influence in comics, because there was a creator who jumped on the end of New Mutants before they stopped it and it went over and turned into X-Force. That was Rob Liefeld. The guy introduced...
Fuck Rob Liefeld.
Oh, come on. He isn't that bad. The dude's like a Highlander. He doesn't age. He just, he changes his name.
He does look the same though. Like if you see him from like his pictures from like 90 or 89 to now, like he just has wrinkles on his face. That's it. He looks like the exact same person.
He still has the baby weight too, for whatever reason.
It's like that. Is the Spike Lee music? The ad, the Levi's ad that he did, which is fucking crazy.
Blatant sellout by Spike Lee, by the way.
Well, after Spike did the remake of Old Boy, like he lost all credit with me. I don't have his credit is not good with me anymore. But with people being Rob Liefeld, first example, taking a Eastern influence, which was Akira, saying, Tetsuo, metal arm, flipped. Hey, so Tetsuo has a metal arm. That you cannot tell me that did not influence Cable. Because Akira was that influential. And the comics were around. People forget this. The movie was not out yet, but the comics were translated already. And even if they weren't translated, still people were getting stuff. Like, especially if you're on the West Coast, you can get stuff imported.
Didn't one of Marvel's like auteur brands back in the 80s do like a colorized? Yeah, they had a colorized publication of that back in sometime in the 80s.
Same thing with Lone Wolf and Cub. Yeah. Lone Wolf and Cub as well.
Those books go for a pretty penny.
But it's easy to get the
things that are impossible to find. Monkey Man and O'Brien, bro. I've been struggling forever. Oh yeah, okay. So
the chase is real, man.
1982. So yeah, that makes sense.
Rob Liefeld, he admitted in a documentary that he was a manga fan at the time of around 92, and he bought he said that he bought a stack of mangas, and that was like his secret weapon. He saw how they were wearing gear instead of like spandex like the Americans, so that was his like little contribution thing. So they do admit like a manga influence.
you got to figure when you look at superheroes, and this is a bit of a segue into like the Ultimate line and what like Mark Miller was doing with Brian Hitch, but it's related. So when you look at superheroes, that's all built off like the old strongmen from like the carnival fairs and stuff like that from way back when, from yesteryear. And like you said, like you have guys in spandex, but if you look at soldiers, if you look at people who actually go into active combat, they're wearing gear, they're wearing like tac vests, you know, they're ready for anything, they're anticipating any type of response. And the way that Mark Miller and Brian Hitch did the Ultimates, they were kind of looking at it as like, well, what about extreme athletes? Like, if these people have to move in and out of precarious situations very quick, they're not going to wear clothes that are going to cause drag, slow them down. They're not going to carry more equipment than they need to, so on and so forth. It's going to be very, very streamlined. And the flip side to that is that's the way the military is actually starting to move towards. Instead of having a bunch of GIs out there carrying like 100 pounds worth of gear, it's only going to be you're going to be out there in short missions. You're going to move quick. You're going to return to base, and you're not going to carry anything more than you need to have, and that's it. So for just that whole notion of like going from spandex to gear, and how the Japanese were doing that, and that put Liefeld kind of in that mindset. That's fucking brilliant.
Well, then you had stuff like look at Gen 13. Look at the Wildcats for that example as well. You had, well, especially Gen 13, J. Scott Campbell, and the way, and even like Jim Lee would, the way that he would draw the guns, he would draw the ships. It's like, I could draw a helicopter. Helicopter's tough. I got to use reference. Hey, I'll make up this thing that looks kind of like a helicopter, but not really. This thing that looks kind of like a gun, but not really. And that's a lot of that. It looks like something out of some, like, whether it be Macross or, you know, that,
it was form over function.
Exactly. It was one of those things. How can I draw it quick without having to use reference? Which is fine. Which is, but when you're supposed to be drawing a helicopter, like that is not a helicopter. Helicopter does not look like that. This makes no sense. It's like they'll draw a realistic, say, they'll draw a Heckler and Koch, let's say submachine gun, but he'll draw this like weird futuristic stealth helicopter looking thing. I'm like, no, give me a break. Come on. Yeah. Come on, dude. Give me a little this and that. But you look at J. Scott Campbell and the way they would draw the IO troops and what he drew Gen 13, where these people will be in these mechs, and it's straight up out of Masamune Shirow. It's straight up out of Ghost in the Shell, Appleseed, that kind of thing. It's not. This is not a straight up American influence. That's the good way of taking that Eastern influence. And how that right there has been put in the comics and has had a lot of ramifications for good, but also for negative, because it's like, hey, let's make this look like it where it kind of looks cheap. It can look cheap at times, but that's just my little 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I remember Tom McFarlane when he said he was involved with the Spawn animated show for HBO. He said that he was influenced by movies like Ninja Scroll and the animes that are popular, like in the early to mid '90s, like the Kawajiri stuff.
Yeah, it shows. I mean, that right there. I mean, that Spawn animated series is held. That thing is held up. It probably is the most well because it's accurate, because the guy was in charge. I mean, the guy created was basically in charge of it. And as far as though I love '89 Batman, it's not the most accurate to the character.
No, absolutely not. It's when it comes to like '89 Batman, it captured what everybody wanted Batman to be, especially after all the what's his name there? Fucking
Adam West.
Yeah, well, not even Adam West, because that's disco fucking cocaine Batman. But like after that in the comics, it was the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil era, or Denny O'Neil Adams as I refer it to. It was just kind of little bit of the Frank Miller, but not too over the top. Because Frank Miller is another guy that I was actually going to bring up. Isn't he the one who brought the the samurai culture into Wolverine?
Yeah, that and the Hand. With the whole with the Hand being a part of Daredevil as well.
Yeah, and funny with that because Ninja Turtles is essentially a derivative of Daredevil.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a side story. Basically, it's what happened to the radioactive waste that hit Matt Murdock in the eyes,
Yeah,
went down in the sewers, or the turtle little fish tank with little turtles. Get covered in it. Same thing with a rat, and you get the
yeah,
Ninja Turtles. But look at Ronin. I mean, Ronin by Frank Miller is just a straight up. And without Ronin, there wouldn't be no Samurai Jack. So that right there,
oh yeah,
Samurai Jack is just it's Ronin. There's no, and there's even my favorite episode of Samurai Jack is the one with Jack and the Spartans. It's basically Ronin / 300. I'm like, there you go. You can't go wrong with that.
yeah,
But
and that's like you have all these American creators, and this is going back at least 30 some odd years, who just like they knew their craft and they knew it well, but they were definitely tuned into something that the mainstream wasn't. Because again, for all the stuff that we want to praise like Frank Miller for, and like Rob Liefeld and all them, you have mangakas who are doing it like 10, 15 years before they were.
yes, well, that's the thing. So a lot of people forget that even like when it comes to big cities. I mean, I'm talking more like the cyberpunk, that look.
Yeah.
People forget
Oh, yeah.
the Japanese didn't create that. It was a Frenchman. It was Jean Giraud Mobius. He created
Oh,
that
yeah.
in Middle Harlan. And that went from France all the way, or France, Belgium, all the way over to Japan. And then that went over here. And it was just like a kind of encircled the earth multiple times. And, that's how we get everything from, like Dark Minds. And then that's how you get, Blade Runner, because, that kind of thing, that was, that's movie, but still. And then, great comic book with that Jim Steranko cover, Al Williamson interiors, fantastic comic. But it's like you get these people forget that a lot of them are not, they're well known in Japan. They're not as well known here. The mangaka, the creators, the comics writers, artists, but as well as their, the background artists, because that's another thing. Like that's one of those that they're unsung heroes, because people forget drawing all that. That's the artist does not do every single bit of line work in that comic. Even Kira Toriyama was not doing all that. I mean, that's how he was able to, that's how they're able to make their deadlines. Like you miss a deadline here, they push the book back. You miss a deadline over there, they almost come for your head.
Yeah, you got to cut off a pinky. Well, that's I just want to kind of a side note to that was matte paintings in films. If you look at Escape from New York, the best example I can give, when they're showing that computer grid layout of New York City, that was actually a matte painting.
Yeah,
and that matte painting was done by Jim Cameron.
Yeah, that's back before Terminator. That's where he kind of cut his teeth doing that. He also did that with Roger Corman as well. So he did.
Oh, yeah.
There were that's the thing. That work goes into it. And you look at James Cameron. I mean, he's been putting stuff into his. Like you look at Avatar. That wouldn't exist for anime and manga. It was that's
easily that was. Well, it's for the longest time he's been talking shit about doing Battle Angel Alita. Do I believe it? No, but you can definitely see the influence.
Yeah, well now he's got that. I know it's coming out, but man, that does not look that good to me. I don't know about the rest of you, but Battle Angel Alita it looks just like 10 years too late. It looks like it's been 10 years too late. It looks too old.
Yeah. What was the reasoning behind having her be CGI? Like, what was instead of like a thing they did with like Ex Machina or Ex Machina? Like, remember she was like she was a real person.
Yeah, like the actress with like the blue screen patches on her or whatever, like that kind of deal.
Right. Like, how come they didn't go that way and they just made her a whole CGI person for Alita? Like, what was the deal with that?
That's James Cameron's addiction to CG. I mean, it's like we get what you're able to do with it. You're able to like convey stuff you couldn't do traditionally. You couldn't do You couldn't do the T-1000 traditionally. They tried. The best they could do is like with the puppeteering, but full body liquid metal, it's not possible. I mean, you'd have to do stop motion, and that would look god awful. I mean, I love stop motion, but stop motion works when you're dealing with like something like Ed 209.
That would
That
be a
works fine.
novelty, though. That would be a novelty, though. Fucking Harryhausen, or one of his, project. I was gonna say progeny, but like basically somebody, one of his apprentices, if you will, um, doing the T1000, and just that imagination and that style, doing that kind of uh, what that character was supposed to be able to do. I think would definitely be able to be something to behold, but I think you're right. It would have just looked too fucking hokey at the end.
Unless it was like 1960 something, then that would have kind of blown some people's minds. Imagine doing like,
absolutely.
imagine a Terminator 2 in 1960. Like
you know what?
Oh god, that'd be great.
What I love is when people take like modern or current movies, but cast them for like the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and shit like that.
Yeah.
I got one somewhere in a fucking picture vault on one of my computers, and it's Ghostbusters, and it was like Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, basically all the guys that did horror, and like a couple of guys, I think Buster Keaton as well. Like basically mostly horror guys, couple of comedy guys, but they did it. The poster was presented in a way where it's just like, I could fucking watch that if it came on fucking TMC. Fuck yeah.
Well, the other one, this is actually ties into the anime thing, anime and the Eastern influence. There was back when I used to go to it, cracked.com, which I have not gone to in a long time because like they really started sucking.
Central.
Yeah, it's bleeding. Yeah, it's like I'm surprised I don't got blood coming out of my computer screen. If you go there, consider how many bleeding hearts they got there.
Edgy as fuck.
Yeah, it's like got AIDS infected blood coming out of my computer screen. Fuck. But
blood.
Pause blood, get paused. There was one of those pre-makes. There's a pre-make poster for The Matrix that was done in 1972 with
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee's Neo. Then it had Pam Grier as Trinity. It had Sidney Poitier as
Morpheus.
And then
I've seen that one. I remember
Peter Sellers as Agent Smith. And I was like, damn it, I want this film. I want this film badly. It was like, I think it was like directed by Sam Peckinpah or something like that. I can't remember. But like that kind of thing, it's like people forget. Like if you watched, like I said, I watched Ghost in the Shell before I watched The Matrix. And seeing Ghost in the Shell first, because I was on Sci-Fi Channel. So of course they edited around most of it because of the nudity, certain things and everything. But the gist of it, and then watch The Matrix, I'm like, that looks very familiar. And then you especially look at the sequels. I mean, that's just straight up out of Gundam and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
But it wears its influence away. If you strip that influence away, there isn't much left there. Like same thing, we strip away anything from the Invisibles. But
well, I think a lot of that can be said. Like, think of so I picked up the current issue of Cable, right? 155, I think. The numbers
I haven't read that yet. I picked it up last week. I haven't read it yet.
It's pretty good. At first just take the cover for instance, right? It looks like something Masamune Shirow would draw, right? From giant oversized Gatling gun with the shell casings, the way the ground's cracked, the extreme muscular build of a Cable, the way the muscles are emphasized in the exaggerated pose. That looks like something from Appleseed. Like if you would have turned to a panel of Appleseed with them shooting a Gatling gun, like it would have looked exactly the same. Like you can notice those things because a lot of the stuff's kind of taken from I think I hear an echo. I don't know if that's just me or something. But yeah, a lot of that stuff, if you look at 90s Image Comics, you see a lot of that because a lot of those guys were reading manga. A lot of the stuff's been inspired by other things. I think there's a lot of cyberpunk like comics, like French comics that came out in like the early 80s. And you're just finding out, everything's kind of, everybody steals something from somebody.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the way things are.
Well, that's just how art works. Like you're going to see something that you've never seen before from a culture that you've never been exposed to. And it's like, holy fuck. And then that's going to influence you to do something. And then in turn, let's say 5, 10, 15 years down the road, someone comes across, let's say like your DeviantArt page, hypothetically. They're going to look at that and be like, that's fucking awesome. I'm going to do something like that. And that's how art perpetuates itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Daniel, I mean, you with your comic Red, you know, that right there. I mean, clearly you have that anime, that Eastern influence in your work,
Oh yeah,
and
definitely. Yeah.
you
That
wear
was
it proudly. Yeah. So
yeah, definitely. That was what I grew up on. Yeah, I mean, in the '90s, early '90s, that was like manga and anime. Anime was, I mean, it was pretty tough to get. Like, I mean, you could get it in a quality like Blockbuster Video or something, but basically where I live in the Bronx, it was just like mom and pop video stores and stuff, and they weren't carrying that stuff, so you had to go into the city,
Yeah,
Manhattan, and get it.
going to Chinatown or something.
Yeah, you had to go to Chinatown, and like there was a place that sold them, and you had to go down and like try to negotiate with the guy to get some good stuff. But it was exciting. It was an exciting time because that was like so new to people, like, and a
Yeah.
lot of yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, I remember Sci-Fi Channel. They had Saturday Night Japan. It wasn't even called anime. It was Japanimation.
Yeah, they call it Japanimation.
And like I remember it was Project A-ko, Gray Side versus Blue Side, which some people like are like, that's the worst fucking movie of the whole thing because it's non-canonical, blah blah. You watch that, it's just a fun romp.
Yeah, yeah, they're all fun. Like all those Project 8 goes were fun, and it's Sci-Fi Channel would play the same ones
Oh
like
yeah.
all the time. Like
Armitage 3 Polymatrix, they had that damn thing on a loop for the most part. like 98 to 99, it was like every other Saturday, like it would be on there. Like they put like it would be like 1 a.m. or whatever. And you know, and then that's why like I have no interest in watching Blade Runner 2049 because same damn plots, Android getting knocked up. Okay. That's
It was
great.
still a good movie, man.
I'm one of these. I'm one of the people. I'm like, it's like I can see a dumpster fire. Doesn't mean I have to put my hand in it.
Oh man, that's cool. Well,
then,
it's kind of what's up.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It was kind of one of those things. Like for me, it was all over the place. Like I think for a moment we had when I was really young, we had dish cable, which was trash, by the way, because every time it rained, it will always knock out.
Oh, yes.
Oh man, I would hate it when it would rain. I was like, "Well, we're gonna have to get the cable guy tomorrow because our cable's down." But I think the first time, I think it was so there was this anime called Dirty Pair, right? It came out in the 80s with Kei and Yuri. So I actually saw Dirty Pair Flash first, and that's what came on TV. It was like, I guess they were playing like, because it was an OVA, so I think it was like a total 8 episodes. So I think they were playing the first 4 episodes, and I didn't know what anime was. And I saw this, I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is pretty awesome. Then later on, I started to go to my grandma's house because she had cable, and I would stay up late and watch, like, I think they had the Asian network, right? AZN. I don't think that's around anymore, but they had like Venus Wars. They had what's that other anime? Can't remember. I forgot. It was like this one main character or something like that. It'll come back to me later. But yeah, it was like all like Pat Labor and all these like older like animes from like the late 80s and early 90s. So it wasn't. So it was one of those things. I saw bits and pieces, and I'd go to my uncle, and we go to like this Vietnamese old VHS like rental store, like dusty boxes with like random stuff like Project A-ko and all this other stuff. I didn't know what it was. I think it was Tenchi Muyo. Yeah, that's what it was on the Asian network. I didn't even know what this was. I was like, this is cool. It's insane. I've never seen this before. So that was like my first thing, getting into that.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was like 97 or 98. I want to say it was 98, but Cinemax had it was like this week of every night, like I think it was at 8 or 9 o'clock. They were showing, it was every Sunday at like 9 o'clock. They were doing like a fresh from Japan kind of thing or whatever. Like they were showing like certain movies, and it was like every single one of them I enjoyed. It was like Goku One Midnight Eye. Yes, it rules. I don't want to hear no Goku Midnight Eye.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, it's awesome. The comic's great too. I actually have the comic by Buichi Terasawa, but they had Goku Midnight Eye, Ninja Scroll, Wicked City, Golgo 13 Queen Bee, and Vampire Hunter D, the original.
Yeah.
Which doesn't have, okay, if you compare, it's like comparing apples and oranges. You compare Vampire Hunter D to Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, it's like night and day. You can't really compare them. It's unfair. One was 85, one was 96. Like the animation quality, it's like one looks like if it wasn't for the nudity and the violence and heads coming off and all that stuff, it would be like a Saturday morning cartoon. And then the other,
easily.
But the thing about it is like how good they were, and like Wicked City is one of those things. That and John Carpenter's a thing of like burned themselves into my soul. The body horror and the like heads being decapitated and tendrils coming out, chests opening up. I mean, disturbing stuff.
I might as well share this one. I can't remember the fucking name of it, but it's one of those hentai that's like
oh god.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I knew we were going to get to hentai at some point.
There was this dude I went to high school with, and he got held back a couple of times. So when I was a freshman, this dude, he was a sophomore, but he was already 18. So he could fucking, the world was his fucking oyster. So I can't remember the fucking name of it, but it's like that first one, that first big hentai that everyone almost knew about because it had all the tentacle porn. There was this like they're trying to they have these two siblings from the future. They're mutants. They go back in time. They're trying to find this guy, the Tojin.
I have no clue. The one you said that like the one that came up was that I remember it was called the Blue Girl, and it was like one of those like I remember because I was at the Heroes Con, the convention, and then they had the table like where they used to sell the bootleg DVD anime and stuff.
Yeah,
and they had like the thing about it is people forget they're so used to like going on the torrents and everything now to get this to get their hands on anime.
Yeah, don't get
back in the day when they bootleg things, they actually put like good quality art. They packaged the boxes better than the damn official companies. That's what's so sad. It was like I picked up I think Cowboy Bebop was bootleg. Ghost of Shell, the Stanley Complex, the Stanley Complex second gig. It was fan subbed, but original Japanese dialogue. So I'm watching it, and here's the problem: the fan subs sometimes they're on the episodes, and sometimes they weren't. So like 20 episodes of like I'm trying to watch and pay attention, like. Guess what's going on?
Oh man!
But it was good. I mean, good animation and everything. But it's like you get these. I mean, like like as far as you getting that kind of like that vibe from that. It's like how like Cowboy Bebop. I'm surprised how that hasn't influenced more comics. That's a damn shame. That kind of neo noir, like the junker stuff, like everything's been used and lived in. Like the Bebop was old fishing trawler where it land on planets and and scoop up fish and take them back to sell, like, stuff like that. And like nobody's really explored that. I mean, closest thing you'll get is
homages and Easter eggs.
Yeah, little Easter eggs or something. Yeah, it's like like a Jewish guy who knows Jeet Kune Do.
Well,
the green hair.
There was one. There was this. I forget who directed, but it was a movie called Brick. With Sean. What's it? Jason Gordon-Levitt or whatever his name was.
That was directed by everybody's favorite Ryan. Yeah, Johnson.
Right. Oh, it was? Oh, here we go. Yeah, flashbacks. You got mad all over. As soon as this slasher's over, you're gonna go and burn up Brick.
I never had it. I had it on my watch list on Amazon Prime. And
excluding the guy who directed it, I didn't know this, but he actually modeled the main character, Levitt's character, after Spike Spiegel. Because of the way he's dressed, he always wears like a jacket where he's always hunched over. They made his hair kind of messy like that to look like Spike. He always wears like shoe boots or whatever, and has like his pants rolled up to kind of look like him. And even when you say, well, they ripped off Cowboy Bebop, but even Spike Spiegel's like character design is ripped off of Lupin the Third, all the way from the tie to the casual sport coat and like the high water pants and everything, which is a darn good show. Like if you haven't watched the recent Lupin the Third Part 4, like it took me forever because I just wanted to savor it. It's a pretty fun show.
Well, it's like that right there. I mean, you look at it like that is, for all intents and purposes, that is Cowboy Bebop. I mentioned it because you got Fujiko, Faye. You got damn it, not Jigan, the other guy, the guy with the gun,
the sniper. I forget what his name is.
Yeah, the cop dude with he's got. I mean, not the cop. He looks like he's a part of Lupin's team. The guy with the
yeah, he always wears the goatee and the hat. Yeah,
that's basically Jet. That's basically Jet.
I don't know who the cop would be. I don't know who Inspector Zanato would be.
I don't think there is a comparison.
There
There's
isn't one,
there's
yeah.
enough influence like right there, but you look at Castle Cagliostro, that right there, like their sequence in Castle Cagliostro, the Lupin the Third film that Miyazaki did, and that right there influenced, like Spielberg with like because that came out 879, I believe, and so it predated Last Crusade. I mean, not Last Crusade, Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Desert Chase and some of the other stuff. It has like that, not the exact same setup. It's closer to if you've seen the 1010 movie that Spielberg did, it's actually closer to that. That's very much like a Lupin the Third kind of deal. It's it's very actiony, kind of comedic action, but it's like over the top, and it works out well. And I remember back in the day, it was like one of the Wizard magazine things. They were talking about how there was a Mystique ongoing series. Believe it or not, that's what's so crazy. There was a Mystique series back in the day. They gave everybody that series in comics, But the designer was it Jorge Lucas, I think his name was, up and does he's like, oh, I got to redesign Sentinels. So he just takes the Ava Unit 2 and just turns it into a Sentinel. Man. And I was like, oh, you didn't, did you, dude? It's like if not as lanky, it's like if the Ava Unit 2 had some gains.
Wow.
Like he's a little more jacked. He's swole, as they say. And it was
hitting the gym, man.
Hitting the gym. He's like, do you even lift, bro? But yeah, it was like stuff like that. It's like that's a clear example, but that was a little too lazy. It was a little too on the nose. But what have you? I mean, it worked. It's memorable. I remembered it, and that's like almost 20 years ago that series was. But yeah, so yeah, like I don't mind that stuff if it's done well, if it's done a little bit, taking the influence and being a little creative with it, and it's like and the visual style, like the way that it looks visually like a comic, like there's because Dark Minds, I like Dark Minds, the Pat Lee, the original, and then also like the Dark Minds, which is Macropolis, which is actually by Joan Chen. She did like a lot of this stuff for she worked for Capcom, so like her art looks like the kind of the classic Capcom look. It's like that similar style.
Oh yeah,
and it's like
Has Pat done anything lately? Like I don't think he's done anything last 5-6 years or something.
I know there was some issues after Dreamwave went tits up.
Apparently people weren't getting paid on time or something, right?
Stuff. That's one of those unfortunate things when you come to certain artists becoming studio owners and stuff. They don't know how to actually just I want to get paid and I want to treat everybody fairly, and then stuff like that happens.
Yeah,
and
they don't actually know how to run a business.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you know how to draw a comic does not mean you know how to do a business. Look at what Liefeld was doing.
Because it's funny because originally Pat Lee, I wasn't too it felt a little bit off the way his designs. It always looked kind of angular, it was always from a perspective when you looked at the way he drew. But dang, man, even this, I hate to jump back on the Cyberforce hate wagon, but I really wish he would have been on the book. I don't know, maybe he burned so many bridges.
Because looking at Daniel's art, and I feel so bad I haven't bought your book yet, man.
No, it's all right, it's cool.
But I was looking at Daniel's work, and if you haven't there's samples up on.
I've seen it.
Here's the thing: I was thinking, holy shit! Imagine Daniel doing the work on Cyberforce, and it killed me, man. It was because it's I want to succeed. That's the thing. Certain people, I'll admit, I don't want to see them succeed because they're pieces of shit. But you can't call them out. It's if you call them out, it's gonna be more of a headache than anything. Yeah. But Daniel's a good dude, but Daniel's a damn good artist. And it's Mr. Humble, well, my friend's better than I am. Maybe he is. I haven't seen his work. Your work is here and now. It's great. But it's this kind of I wish Cyberforce, because that Pat Lee stuff works good.
Yeah.
But Daniel, I think you would kill it, dude. I would. Fuck, it pisses me off that they went for this bullshit 20-page.
You know why I'm heated, bro? Because imagine me reading the older stuff, and then I told you I got the trade, and then I started reading some of Velocity, and then they're saying, "Oh, we're getting a new run of Cyberforce." I'm like, "Oh, cool! I'm gonna get some more stuff like this that I've been reading." I look at the previews, I'm like, "Nope, No. And then what's his name? Matthew Hawkins is like, why is everyone so mean on Twitter? Why are people angry all the time? I was like, because you turn in a crap product, bro.
Yeah, people want they want to flash back to the 90s. God help us all. We want the 90s back because they're more creative than the modern day for the most part. That's how fucked the modern day is. I'll take something if you told me, say, I'm gonna do a Cyberforce comic, but it's going to be akin to, let's say, something horrific. Let's let it be something along the lines of, it's going to be based off of I don't know. Oh shit! Something I'm trying to think of something really horrific. Okay, let's say we're gonna go. Imagine if your cybernetics went haywire. So think Wicked City, but with cybernetics. Like, oh god!
God!
Like, imagine this woman, like Rip Call picks up this woman, and then like everything's going well, and then she turns into this like cybernetic spider creature. Like, what the fuck?
That would be they kind of did that a little bit in the.
They did. That's what's so weird. It's like
the 2006 run miniseries with Rip Claw doing the same thing. Like, apparently for some weird reason, Velocity and Rip Claw were dating. I think it was kind of strange. Yeah, it was. It was like, when did this happen? But apparently there was a JLA crossover with Cyberforce in the early 2000s.
That's right. I remember seeing that. I know it was like I remember seeing the Silvestri cover that he did.
Yeah,
I mean, he was like, that's the thing. Like, he could come back and do 4 issues, do a 4-issue series, make sure it's good, put your stamp of approval on it.
I don't think he has. I honestly think that Mark Silvestri is probably like so freaking stressed out all the time trying to keep Top Cow from going under. Because if you go to their website, it's screwed up. It hasn't been updated. I didn't tell you I got my Cyberforce book, but I was actually trying to track it to see when it was coming in, but I couldn't do that. It didn't send me an email notification let me know that the thing had been processed or whatever until like a couple days later. So I was like, they took my $15. They stole my money, bro. And then I did get it in the mail, and the binding wasn't ruined. Thank you, Amazon.
Oh God, I warned my store. I warned my shop. I placed an order from Adam Mirage, but I told him before I ordered it that I've been told by a reputable source that this thing will come in. And if it's broken binding, I'm not gonna. If the store here you go, I open the book up, and if that binding is all fucked up, like you showed me, and if it's like that, I'm not paying for that. You send it back to Diamond. That shit's messed up. I'm not gonna pay for a broken ass book. But God, I'm blaming you.
I finished reading it, but I couldn't even enjoy reading it. I was just reading. I was like, man, this stupid book is ruined. I said, every time I turn a freaking page, it starts cracking on me, and I got to the end of it, and then like the binding on the back just started peeling off. I was like, man, screw this. I went to Kinko's, printed out the labels, slapped it, packaged the book. First thing in the morning, I dropped that crap off, man. That's how mad I was. I was like, y'all gonna give me back my money. Y'all gonna refund. It's like, oh, well, do you want to exchange? Nah, man, I want my money back. I don't want nothing, y'all. I like went off, bro.
Don't get between a man and his velocity. That's damn sure.
For real, bro. Especially when it's Ken the Rockefeller's art, man. The dude's gonna draw some hot women. Like, I'm not like saying like everybody, like this dumb discussion where people like, well, not everybody needs to be overly sexualized. I'm like, we're not talking about overly sexualized. Just don't draw Carol Danvers like a man anymore. Don't draw like Kitty Pryde like a man. Kitty Pryde's not built like Power Girl. We know that. She's not supposed to be. But don't draw her looking like a man. Like, I've reposted art from all these different artists that have done different versions of the current Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, and she looks fine with the costume and everything. Just stop drawing her like this, all right? That's the only problem.
Well,
but yeah.
A lot of them have a problem. Like, they want to they look at, like, the more, like they're trying to take back the toxic masculinity or some crap like that, which the Japanese don't give a shit about.
They don't care, man.
Like, the women there, it's like, there's women that, like, they're like deities, like female deities, goddesses, angels, demons, robots, what have you. I mean, like, the sky's the limit. It doesn't. Yep. And even stuff like when, like, people say, well, look at this harem, oh, this, like Tenchi Muyo or something.
Yep.
You're like, oh, that's problematic. It's like, he gets his ass kicked by him the whole damn time.
Yep.
It's like being in hell. It's like, yeah, being surrounded by pretty women, but they kick the shit out of you. It's like,
One Yukio, the one with the gray hair that's the hothead. Like the first episode, she tries to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
The first episode, she tries to kill him.
Look at something like Inuyasha, which was created by a woman.
Yep.
This asshole dog demon son of a bitch getting his ass, like
Ryoko, that's her name.
Yeah, from Tijimoyo, but it's like having to sit, like being told to sit and bursting through bridges into the cold water, like basically, he's got his balls, she's got his balls in like a vice. It's like she, Kagome from Inuyasha, but yeah, this like. That's another thing. It's like people would look at that, so see, that's this masculinity is always being taken back. No, it's fun. It could be. It doesn't have to be like this. That's the fucking cultural. Like if they look back at like Gen 13, Gen 13, the first issue ends with a. Well, I hate it because it's the old page vertical splash. You could just one single page splash, and then the double page, so a lot of it's lost in the gutter. But it's Caitlin Fairchild is skinny, scrawny, ginger girl, and then she hulks out, She-Hulk style. So basically, she's She-Hulk, and like her clothes rip, and you see like everything, pretty much everything except her nipples and vagina, and it's like barely covered. And they don't like. I mean, oh, how dare they? The male gaze. Oh.
They go to Japan, they start that shit. They're just be like, fuck you, asshole.
But here's the thing that blows my mind. All right, like, okay, so I've been retweeting. I love Jeff DeCall's work, right? I love the dude's artwork, right? And it's funny because he was doing covers for the She-Hulk comic that got canceled, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in the character design, she looks like just a freaking monster, and people like to use the argument, well, if you look at other iterations, which is true, she's like, really swollen, jacked up, like a monster, but not like that, right? And plus, the art didn't look horrible, so it wasn't that bad, But you see the way he draws She-Hulk in there compared to his commissions, two completely different things, which brings in the case. I think editorial has something to do with it. I think editorial's like, this is what she's got to look like. They kind of give them like a guideline or something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter where you go. There's always going to be some type of house standard. So, because at the end of the day, you got to figure it this way. Like, I'm going to use Spider-Man as case in point. Spider-Man's the product that Marvel has. So you don't want to have Spider-Man look like, you don't want to have him look like Jack from Fight Club unless it's part of the story. And by the end of that story, he's going to go back to looking like normal. For the longest time, Spider-Man or Peter Parker rather was basically like your atypical, like just regular dude from the 70s, and he looked that way for like fucking almost 20 years. And I remember seeing an interview with Todd McFarlane. He just up and decided to change the house style. He's like, it's the fucking 90s. Why don't we make Peter and Mary Jane look like they're in the fucking 90s? But that was the John Romita house style, and that was the company line. Everyone had to toe it, because at the end of the day, you want to keep your product as familiar to the audience as possible. One, to get everyone to come back. Two, to get new readers to come in and see, hey, there's a sense of familiarity going on here. So,
yeah, the thing I get now is that I feel like there's not a lot of creative freedom in terms of the artists and the pencilers and what they can do with these scripts. And I know Marvel, they used to have the Marvel method, which is basically just a plot and or outline, and they would take the outline and draw it however it would have to be. Like maybe they even say like, oh, it has to be 3 panels, but they get to say how big each panel can be, or like where the action takes place and all this. And you get a lot of creative surprises out of that. But now it seems to be very rigid. You have a full script, and they might tell you to draw 6-panel grids, and you're not going to get a lot of dynamic flavor out of that.
Well, that's what happens when that right there. The reason it's like that now, and you can thank and also blame the Image guys. When they left, these are the artists that like at one point in time, like Kirby. The only reason he was able to do the Eternals when he came back to Marvel after after the new Gods lines kind of like it imploded was he came back and did Double Dinosaur. He also did the Eternals. But for the most part, nobody else was able to do that writer art. They do both the writing and the art. It was usually, you have to work with somebody else. But you look at Todd McFarlane, you look at Jim Lee, you look at these guys that had their, and then for the most part, like Rob Liefeld, was, even though he's working with Nicieza, there's still, he still had more power. Same thing with Louis Simonson, even though he's working with much more talented people, they were not able to, they didn't have as much influence as Rob did. Same thing with the rest of them. Like Eric Larson, probably not to that extreme, but so when they left, when the artists left, and the artists revolted, it's like, okay, fine. From now on, the writer's going to be in charge. The writer's going to stick to it. The writers we can trust. And so from that, the Marvel method pretty much died then, because when you had these writers, especially it was dead when Bendis came in. And you have to draw this many, double page spread and nothing but people talking, like that kind of thing. It's that method that's gone down the drain.
Well, that was Bendis did decompression. He didn't need to, because if you read any of his older stuff, you read like Torso, there's a little bit of decompression in there, but it's almost like it draws the moment out.
But it's also it's a drama story. It's horror drama. It's that. It's based off the the killing, the Torso killing, Cleveland and everything with Elliot Ness. But the problem with that is that was a finite story, beginning, middle, end. There you go.
But when you go to Ultimate Spider-Man, it gets to the point where it's gratuitous. It's not even done for the purpose of story. Now, Warren Ellis, he did a comic around the same time called Fell.
Yeah. 16 pages, and every single page is like about 9 panels, I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was very formatted, and he noted, I think it was in the foreword, it was an experiment in compressive storytelling, because at the time, Bendis was doing Ultimate Spider-Man, and everything was completely fucking decompressed. It was getting to the point of just being absolutely stupid. So, Fell told an amazing story in as little space as possible, and the worst part of it is, it's like there's one volume. That's it. And Warren Ellis is like, I'll get back to it if I have the chance.
Yeah, he never finished it, actually. So it's like, but even still, each issue was like, it felt like a complete story, even though it's part of a bigger story. That's the problem. Like, a lot of people, they do comics today. Like I was complaining about somebody, they did a thread on it was like mentioned, like I don't know if it's Braylon, you might have retweeted it, but it might have been somebody else. But there was a thread, and this person was talking about, like, all the floppy formats dying, this and that. It's like, well, if that dies, then the stores die, because like, who's going to go into a store each week? Maybe a month, maybe every other month. Like, you want somebody to come back in the store, lower the prices, increase the quality. It's not too hard. If Alternate can do it, Marvel can do it, DC can do it. They can lower the prices, make the paper cheaper, make the stories more fulfilling, get creators on there to give a shit, that market their work, that company, that kind of thing. Yeah. Just take a page out of Alternate's playbook, and the stores will be a lot healthier than they are. But the decompression, a lot of people, I actually do blame the Japanese for that. You look at the comics, I love like Akira Toriyama, but that's why I love Dr. Slump more than Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, because Dr. Slump, the stories, boom, each story is basically standalone. But then you look at like Dragon Ball Z, like multiple chapters of nothing but exposition and like basically padding, that decompression to the point where if you combine 200 pages, you get maybe 10 of actual progress, because nothing happens. They go to here, go to there, nothing happens. Go to this, nothing happens. Yeah, and I understand that's like, it's kind of like he was probably shopping a lot of that out to the background artists, and they were just doing their thing.
The interns, the apprentices, and stuff.
Exactly.
Well, I think you're half right in that assessment of how everything kind of shifted over to the writers. I think the other half of that is a lack of creativity, because in all honesty, the idea of thinking outside the box is you're inside of a confined space, and you need to think of how you're going to get out of it. The guys from Image, their mentality essentially was every panel is a poster. which I think was, in all honesty, a shit fucking thing to do, because you're not telling a story like that. You're just making the coolest fucking thing that you can put on that splash page. And if you can't fit it on the splash page, okay, we're gonna shoot it at 10%, and we're gonna fit it into this fucking panel down here, this little fucking 6x3 panel. We'll make it fit. If we gotta crop out, we'll crop out, and just throw some fucking bubbles in there, and fucking, like that was the mentality that some of those guys had.
Yeah, I agree with Retro. There was a lot of sloppiness going on in the early days of Image, and I mean, but I feel like it's like a throw the baby out with the bathwater thing. It's sort of like the kid, he drove the car when he was like 16, he wrecked the car, but now you're punishing him while he's still holding a grudge when he's like 50 or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can let these guys off the leash a little bit, and it doesn't have to be this whole, pace for trade, compression. Don't let them draw like splash pages. Don't let them draw like big muscles. Don't let them draw guns. It's like, it seems like they're over regulating.
Yeah, for the most part, that's a lot of problems with Marvel right now. You have these people, like even those that like say John Malin or something, like or somebody along those lines that could do that, and give them a little bit of freedom. They they wouldn't go too overboard, but give them a little wiggle room. But the editorial, from all intents and purposes, seems like they actually have an iron fist. They're like this kind of totalitarian editorial regime. So instead of actually getting these people that would actually do that kind of thing or be inclined to do these kind of the over-the-top, action-oriented, very fulfilling, kind of artistic, visually, because artistic can be written as well, but something along the lines of like, I don't want something in that realm of Damage, that the DC book that's basically just nothing but splash pages and nothing happens. I know everybody loves to put series and it's not trying to be anything else than it is, but it could be much better. What the fuck? But but like, where if you go and do one of these decompressed stories, like, and the idea of demonizing speed lines is fucking ridiculous. Overuse, yes, like with nothing but speed lines everywhere, that's a problem. But they just like anything else. How are you gonna convey speed on a static image?
Exactly.
I don't know, like, God, I love you look at the Flash. He has speed lines. Back in the 50s, they had speed lines. It wasn't the same as like say like the like where it was a what do you call it, like a tone sheet where they would cut it out and everything and paste it like they did, but they still had speed lines. They was hand drawn and everything, but demonizing it because somebody like Liefeld, like, okay, Liefeld did it, maybe overdid it. Some of his guys maybe overdid it. Okay, fine, but that doesn't make it all bad. And these people, the same thing with these people, like all that bad, like the Liefeld was whacking at him. Like, you can blame Jim Lee for that too, because I remember posting an image of Zealot from issue like 8 or 9 of Wildcats. Somebody says, "Oh my God, that's a bad Rob Liefeld art." I said, "That's Jim Lee." Because it's like tiny head, long body. Her legs are like 5 head lengths, like long and everything. Like, the whack anatomy. But like, because Liefeld has that stigma, it's like like, I think a lot of it. I don't like to do it, but it's like a lot of them are haters. They hate that Liefeld, this guy that he sucks, but he's going to be remembered for all time, good or bad. He's going to be remembered. There's people that are much more talented that won't be, and that's what sucks. Yeah. There's people that busted their ass. They won't like. There is a guy. Oh, damn it! This is gonna be funny. I can't remember the guy's name. I know he did Sandman Mystery Theater. He did a book called Punks. Oh fuck, what was his name? It's basically a punk version of Sherlock Holmes. If Sherlock Holmes and Watson were 2 chicks, and like 1980s, alternate 1980s London.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh fuck, what was his name? He's a much better artist.
Guy Davis.
Guy Davis, that's it. I want to say Guy Fawkes, but I was like, that's not right. So, but yeah, Guy Davis, a much better artist. Will not be like, I couldn't even remember him. How fucked up is that? I'm trying to promote the guy's name. I couldn't even remember his name.
Well, you see, it's with Rob Liefeld. So with Liefeld, he's not really famous for doing that. Mm-hmm. He's infamous for doing that.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. It's like a lot of these people, they get that that stigma that they get the infamous tag upon them, and in doing so, it kind of trickles down and affects other people. The innocence,
Yeah.
it's like like it's quite unfortunate, but Daniel, as far as artists, because you're actually published. You've actually got your stuff out there. Me, I do I'll do it yourself stuff, so it doesn't count as much. But when you see other people do this kind of work, when you do these, like whether it be, do you gravitate towards the that the anime inspired work, or is like you go for pretty much anything that looks good? It doesn't matter if it's kind of got that anime manga look, or it's a Western influence, kind of like a John Buscema or what have you.
Yeah, I pretty much take anything that looks good. Now I love anime. I don't love all anime, or all manga, like the look of it. I just take what looks cool. I mean, it probably sounds kind of, I don't know.
No, there's definitely respective styles to like every mangaka, every anime out there. Some of it looks a little bit too flashy, a little bit too over exaggerated, overemphasized. Then you have stuff that looks like you can tell it's a cartoon, but you can tell they're going for accuracy.
Right. Like I'm a big Kawajiri fan. Like, I mean, that dude is my dude. Like, I've watched everything he's done, even the stuff he's produced.
Yeah.
I stay within that kind of frame, and even modern anime that I like is sort of this Western influence anime, which, that's like my thing. Joe Mad, that's like what I love. But I also love American art. I love everything. I would say, like, it's funny because like the Image guys, when I even Tom McFarlane and Rob and I guess Silvestri, they were all influenced by 90s anime. I wish they wouldn't have stopped. Like, I wish they would have kept going in that direction. Like, it doesn't have to look like anime, but at least retain that openness to change and in the artists that they hire. Like, now they're going for like a sort of this
YA look.
Yeah, this
YA look.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate.
So when you say like I should do like Cyberforce, I mean,
I'm not kidding, man. If you did basically it's Cyberforce but not in name, it's Cyberforce if not in name, like that kind of thing, like some kind of dude. I'm not kidding. I honestly think that like not the thing about Cyberforce. It's not a straight up superhero story. It's more akin to like it's like a Cyberforce is kind of like American Cyberpunk. And have you ever read Cyberforce?
Oh yeah, I bought I bought the Silvestri run.
Okay, cool.
From eBay. Like I got them all.
Check out the Kenneth Rocafort stuff, bro. Just saying.
Yeah, I will definitely.
The Cyberforce Hunter Killer is like I recommend that wholeheartedly. That's so fucking good.
Yeah, feel free to recommend all the all the stuff they don't want us to read anymore. You know what I mean?
I think that's why the binding was so bad with like Madame Mirage and a couple other stuff. It's like, and also it's hard to, like the Hunter Killer. I think Hunter Killer is out of print.
Yeah.
It's like this erasure of like bombastic arts, or what they feel is toxic for us to read, like all the crazy like big guns, action, and it's like trying to like erase it. So like we just have to accept this.
Look at the fucking shit now. Like, I mean, even it's not just the action stuff, but I know it's not really related. It's not related, but the Molly Ringwald, John Hughes' chick that he used all in his films, like who has no career outside of the John Hughes films. Did an article is like retrospectively looking back in the modern sense of things, like the problematic, the problematic look back at
Oh yeah, that came out today, right?
Yeah, and some like. So, like I said, I read a funny reply to that. It's like, so if you look back at the silent films, like women being tied to train tracks, that's problematic too.
Oh man,
it's like the same thing with these people. Like look where they're coming from. Look where these people are. California. That right there. It's not saying all people in California are bad. People living out in the middle of nowhere.
Status quo. It's the fucking status quo.
Yeah, they don't want to rock the boat, because if they rock the boat, look, like there was a video. There's a video came out criticizing one of the more vocal people in the the fan community, and it was like one of it was ratio to death. It fell upon the ratio. It was like 12 likes and like 250 dislikes or some shit like that. And it was like the video, like the guy's like got like 50 subscribers or something. Like the guy's a nobody, but they fucking obliterated him because he dared to talk back. So it's like that's what these people are like. We hate censorship. I think you suck. Fuck you, motherfucker.
Well, it's like Patrick Zurcher, right? Like he posted.
Exactly, yeah.
I retweeted it, and I was like, it says tweet is no longer available. So he deleted it. So either somebody gave him crap for it, or like gave him the stink eye, because there are people that will speak out against it, right? The problems, but when they do, they get ostracized. People throw shade on them, but it's okay to say all these other things. Like, here's what I think. I honestly feel Top Cow does not have, like, they're struggling. They can't get the top talent. They can't get the top artists. And I think the whole thing about just boycotting Image is stupid, because think about it. Okay, so you had a lot of the top writers at Marvel get ticked off. They either left to go to DC or they went to Image to do their own thing so no one would bother them. Jonathan Hickman, who did Fantastic Four and New Avengers, guess what? He's at Image. Rick Remender, who did stuff on Captain America and some other stuff, guess what? He's with Image. A whole bunch of these other guys who got sick and tired of dealing with this stuff. Maybe Tom Brevoort Brevoort's probably one of those guys you don't want as top editor. You want his assistant editor.
What's up? The tweet that he put out
about Trump and his son talking about
his son. It's like basically shit on his son. I was like,
oh my god, his son, I want to meet his son. Take him to the strip club and get him a fucking lap dance. Take a fucking picture and say, hey, Brevoort, you fucking jealous?
but here's
that guy's son could probably cuck his father any day of the fucking week.
Tom Brevoort is one of these guys. He lacks social skills and is just terrible with people. You need to put him in a corner. It's like, hey, Brevoort, is this in continuity? Like, he's the guy you sit in a cubicle and just have him like crunch the numbers and make sure everything works fine and not interact with people. That's who Tom Brevoort should be. But yeah, all these guys that were good at Marvel were either DC or left to go to Image. So why would you boycott the people that are tired of dealing with? See, it's like one person who has the giant megaphone that people listens to, everyone will listen to, will just blindly follow that person. Some don't, and they'll speak out against it. But it doesn't make any sense because some idiot like decided to say something stupid. All right, like there's people that work at Image that never blocked me, never muted me, heart my comments, retweet some of the stuff. Like, let's say Tim Morris. Reply to me.
Yeah.
Like Linda Sejic, who's with Top Cow, which is also a subsidiary or whatever with Image, she retweeted Tim's Kickstarter book when I retweeted it. I added her. She, like a couple of other people that do stuff on Twitch hearted it. She retweeted it. So I'm gonna boycott these people? Like, that's stupid, man.
I saw a comment on one of the YouTube channels, one of the YouTube critic channels, and they were talking about Eric Larson or one of these people, I don't know, and talking about the comments, the whole controversy and stuff. And then it was from an Image creator in the comment section, and he was saying, "Oh, I don't like this behavior either, but I'm a good guy. Will you please check out my book?" And he was a nice guy. He seemed like a good guy. It's like, so I don't know about throwing all this, baby out with the bathwater by boycotting Image. It's like they are separate people. Like, we should judge them as separate people, right? Like,
exactly. Image is a clearinghouse. They're not a company, really. It's just a means to an end. There's no.
What do you want to do? Yeah, they're essentially a publisher.
Yeah, it's a publisher, and just it's kind of it's like a warehouse. It's like what happens is these people they're really impotent. They realize that there's nothing they really can do. That they're the people at one point in time they would have become law enforcement, but now that's too hard because they don't want to go through the whatever the rigors of the training and everything, police academy. They don't want to go through that, so they'll pull this like they want to abuse any kind of power. They're kind of like, let's spit on them, fuck them. They hurt me, so I hurt them back. That kind of bullshit. These people are so fucking impotent. It's like, how dare Rob Liefeld? Oh, how dare Eric Larson? Like that, like they go after these people and they make their enemies. I rant about this too many fucking times, but there's nothing they can do to Eric Larson. Just don't buy the book. Yeah. Guess what? If I see something that I don't like, I don't go out and talk about it all the time. Like Eric Larson, I've met him more than once at conventions. The dude's a fantastic human being. Like politically, I do agree with him, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter because I've talked to him about like comics and stuff. He's done free sketches in the past when I'm at conventions. He just really kick ass. Ben Grimm the Thing sketch is like fucking for free. How many fucking crazy? I'm walking through the artist alley, and there's like a fucking inker, nobody inker from the fucking '90s, charging $50 for a head sketch. And then Eric Larson's over here cranking shit out with his weird way of holding the fucking pen. He's holding it like it's a fucking spoon, and he's like eating some fucking oatmeal, and he's just the thing's done. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And like it's fucking cool. And he'll do like pretty much anything for the most part. It's like off the top of his head. It's like I want this original OC character. It goes from a DeviantArt page. That kind of shit. Yeah, it's like, yeah, fuck that. No, I'll draw the Savage Dragon. I'll draw the Thing. That kind of thing. But it was.
Sometimes I wonder about the expectations on an artist, because artists are weird. They're weird people.
Artists in general are weird. Like you look at fucking David Lynch. The dude's a weird motherfucker. But he's an artist. But then you have people like I don't like Roman Polanski. That's an artist. That's a piece of shit. Should have been flushed. Fuck France for taking his ass.
Well, I'm talking about just like people being expected to go up on stage and announce their book in front of people like they have at the Image Expo and stuff like that, or like being online and becoming a personality in addition to being an artist and a writer.
I try to be. Like I got over my fears of public performance because I was supposed to do in elementary school at the homecoming football game. The elementary school kids were going to perform the YMCA. That's back before I knew the village people were gay. I should have guessed. So, because my dad worked electrical construction, had like kind of like they wore hard hats and stuff like that, tool belts, because you're carrying around wrenches and you're carrying around like everything else, like measuring tape and stuff. You measure twice, cut once. You're fucking with metal pipe. You don't want to just guess,
Oh, yeah.
and cut the wrong pipe, bend it. And oh well, fuck. There goes metal. We got to throw away and whatever like that. Yep. So the other three motherfuckers backed out on me. I was the only one to go up on the podium and do YMCA in front of everybody. And if I could do it then, it made me so nervous. After I've done performing, I puked. I ran past the bleachers. But it was like I may like that guy. And so I may not want to, but I can get up and actually, I try to have like somewhat of a personality, and like, even though I'm very antisocial, I hate people. I usually hate everyone. but like the thing about this, I understand there's potential customers out there, potential people that might enjoy my work. I'm trying not to isolate them. I'm trying to live like set a good example. But then the idea of taking it out on these innocent creators, like you were saying, taking it out on them for doing something that they had nothing to do with, that they didn't put out pornographic Savage Dragon comics. They're not the ones wishing death upon former service members and stuff. Even though I'm looking at it, it's like, oh, somebody said something horrible, boo hoo hoo hoo, and it's like I'm seeing people. It's these like
retweeting it.
Retweeting
all this crap.
Oh, the guy that the former Valiant editor, and they're like, how dare he talk? I'm like, you people are taking so much offense. You people are worse than you people are the SJWs. Like, you people are your enemy. You people suck. And I was following a few people, and I was like, all right,
unfollow so many people. Like, and it's funny because, like, all right,
still show up,
and they still show up. Like, there's somebody I'm not subscribed to anybody, and he still showed up my notifications. I was like, how am I unsubscribed to this dude on YouTube? And he shows up in my notifications, but the live chat with Switchpoint and Tim doesn't show up in my notifications. I'm subscribed to Switchpoint. How does that make any sense?
I got one. Everybody's favorite speedster showed up in my recommendations.
Oh boy, that's the one.
And I went in. There's an option, like YouTube gives you the option to go to it. It's like do not recommend me this thing.
That's exactly what I did.
I had to do it multiple times. It's still showing up. It was like they knew something. Like, here, you like this? Like, they just want to make me angry. They're fucking doing this just to make me angry. I don't want to see this shit. But it's like, that's the kind of thing. Like, these people, where the Japanese, like, I'm looking at like the Eastern Western thing. Like, after the Ghost and Shell thing, I didn't like it. I watched it. I wish I hadn't. My brother warned me. I said, "Hey man, guess what I'm about to watch?" He's like, "What?" So the Ghost in the Shell movie. He's like, "No, not that one," because he thought I couldn't mean the original. He's like, "No, yeah, the Scarlett Johansson." He's like, "Don't do it." It's like, "I already paid for it," and he's like, "I'm sorry." He's like apologizing, and then I watched it and it was fucking horrible. And he's like, "I warned you," and I said, "I know. I should have listened to you. I should have listened. I should just let it expire and not watch it." It's like 2 hours I'll never get back. There's nothing redeemable about that fucking film.
Well, you see, that's where I'd have to almost argue against you. You know it's cringy going in, so at that point you just embrace the cringe and just.
I couldn't do it. It's too bad. It's definitely. Here's the thing.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Suicide Squad
I watched
had the
Mortal
cringe.
Kombat Annihilation. I don't know how much worse it could get.
No, see, I watched that in the theaters, and that right there, I almost walked out. That, and there's a bunch of other movies I've about walked out on.
I watched that in the theater, high on painkillers, because I got my wisdom teeth removed like 2 days before.
Oh my god, that's funny when we watch it.
High on painkillers. Oh my god!
The only reason I watched Ghost in the Shell because I was so wrong about Suicide Squad. I actually loved that film, and I was like, "Fuck! What if I'm wrong about Ghost in the Shell?" I wasn't wrong. No, Larry, you weren't wrong. You were right.
No, Larry. No, Larry. But here's the thing about even creators, the guy working. I know, I'm the only person that talks about this book, and I wish more people would check it out. Batman: Dark Prince Charming, right?
Oh my god, you're part of the marketing team for that fucking book.
I love this book, man. I can't wait for book 2 to come out. So Enrico Marini, he'll respond and stuff, and he always does sketches. The dude was drawing some pinup or whatever while he was at some coffee shop. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just doing this free-handed sketch," and he recorded. I'm like, dude, this would have been a commission that someone would have sold for $200. And this guy's just chilling, just drawing, just sketching, drinking his coffee at a coffee shop. And I'm just over here. I'm like, bro, how is this even possible? And we're getting this crap. But I'm looking at it, Comixology right now, and I'm for volume 1, and I'll try it out. And if I like it, I'll probably get a hard copy of volume 2, The Scorpion, which is this cool swashbuckling book that he did with his art. And I'm just sitting over here. I'm like, why not just get this instead of just risking this money for all these crap titles? But people just I know the big 2 are important, and they the big 2 have to thrive to help the comic book industry. That's just how it is. But I feel we need to have another 90s image moment where all these creators say, screw it, we're going to do this and we're going to be successful at it. But the problem is, you think it would be easy because we have social media, but too many people are just trying to retweet stuff with Dan Jurgens or Michelle Perez, all these other folks, and someone's like, "Hey, I'm doing a Kickstarter," and "Oh, that's nice. Hey, did you hear what Heather Antos did?" I was like, "She's gone to video game." Well, yeah, she made this joke. I was like, I don't care.
The Easter thing. I was like, you people have given this woman more attention than her parents ever did. What the fuck is wrong?
More attention than her parents ever did.
I'll go a step further past that. It was the guys at Image. They saw, and they kind of came up around the time where it was becoming public knowledge that the creators of Superman got fucked over and fucked over hard. Jack Kirby got fucked over hard. Fucking
by
Steve
Stan Lee.
Fuck Stan Lee. It's just Marvel in general and DC.
DC fucked them too. DC is dirty as fuck. Same thing with Marvel. People forget that these companies.
Do you want herpes? Do you want gonorrhea? That's the choice. That's the fucking choice. Marvel or DC? Do you want herpes? Do you want gonorrhea? Take your pick. But they saw what happened to those guys, and they made a stand. They said, no, this isn't fucking happening to us. We're leaving. And they basically, they didn't have a manifesto, but they went to both sides of the street, said, listen, we're leaving. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. Jim Lee ended up coming back. That's another story. They went to they went to both and said, this is what we're doing. Now, all the people that came up, they just want to work for Marvel. They don't want to, very few, I should say, want to go out and fucking strike out on their own, actually start something. They're all just trying to subvert what already exists. It's like, why did Squirrel Girl was a fucking novelty 10 years ago? Squirrel Girl should not be getting fucking play today. You want to know why it exists? Because some jackass editor is going to let that fucking snowflake, whatever the fuck you want to call them, they're patronizing them. That's all that's happening in the fucking industry now. It's like, let's change Marvel. let's change DC. And they're just going to go back and forth, and they're going to go to whatever fucking publisher they can to write whatever title they can to fuck it up, to subvert the system, to fucking to make it postmodern. There's nothing wrong with doing anything that's like a commentary on the previous era. That's fine. It's kind of pushes everything forward. But when when you turn fucking Peter Parker into a cuck, here's a guy who like he knows what it's like to be on the ropes and does everything in his fucking power to not be there, and now he's fucking cucking out to fucking Mockingbird. Get the fuck out of here! Fuck out of here with that shit, you know?
Yeah, it's like I feel like big companies, big corporations will change if they have competition. Like once you lose that connection to the fan base, or like for suggestions, or ask them for suggestions, it becomes like, oh, they'll change if money is involved. Like if there's an indie upstart that's doing the exact opposite of what they're doing and making bank, then they'll change.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
The trend has to change overall. And right now, and of course, you see this with all the people saying like, "Oh, how come we don't have LGBTQ characters?" Well, then fucking why don't you make some? And if they're good, the market will gravitate towards it. Nobody gives a fuck if a character's gay or straight or anything. If you make a good character, put them in a good story, have them evolve over time, it's going to draw an audience. Now, don't get me wrong, not everything's going to be a hit. Some win, some lose. Some stuff goes completely underrated. Other shit goes completely overrated. That's just the nature of the beast. But you don't, like I said, you don't see those people who are crying about not enough representation, lack of representation, anything like that. You don't see them striking out and doing anything on their own. They're just whining and complaining.
And you don't see them turning out the comic swaps.
Yeah, they don't go to actual stores. They're the ones that go to the cons and be like, "Oh, I love your stuff, and check out my DeviantArt page." And it's like, I really, really, really want to introduce half these motherfuckers to Mr. Medeker. Oh, here's your diaper fur. This is your fucking diaper fur. I could have. Oh man, imagine being Eric Larson and fucking someone comes up and it's like, I made a Savage Dragon diaper fur. Could you draw
inflation to bite pump up the ass? Like, oh my god.
Oh, now, the thing is, if I was like a comics artist, I would purposely be going through DeviantArt looking for fucking parodies and spoofs of my shit just for the fucking lulz. I'd probably repost some stuff just to get a fucking just like, hey, look how fucked up this one is, you know?
But when you're making a comic like Savage Dragon, where it's already fucked up, it's like, how low can you go? It's like, there was a cover. It was like the Image 25 or whatever. Yeah. It was like the black bagged cover.
Yeah.
It's like not because it's like to keep it because it's top secret. No, because it's hardcore pornography on the cover. Like, dear God, it's like there's no shame. It's.
Well, let's go back to Eastern influences in comics here. Fucking doujinshi.
Oh yeah,
fucking
fan comics. Yeah.
Where it's like you can go to I can't remember the name of the company. I probably don't want to say it, but I used to know the owners of an import-export company, and they would get I think it was like Ultimate Anime or something like that. And what they would do is like, we do Japanese imports, exports. You go to a convention, they have their booth set up, 18 plus, they check IDs, everything's fucking doujinshi. You name it. You name the fucking fandom. Like,
well, you mean doujinshi hentai, because doujinshi, that's the fan comics, but a lot of it is hentai, but not all.
Oh yeah, but no, all this was all like fucking imported. Like, yeah. It's like you want to see Harry Potter porn? Here's the Harry Potter porn. You want to see Full Metal Alchemist porn? It's right over there. Like, they didn't give a fuck. And you want to know what their top seller was? Yahweh. Any day of the fucking week, Yahweh. Fucking like it raked the money in for them. They were completely fucking apathetic to anything else. Just like, listen, this is what sells. This is what's lining our pockets. I really don't fucking care. At the end of the day, I'm making bank on it. And you know what? That was their business, and that was fucking good on them. They're living the dream. But all these people think like, oh, Tumblr, like this is a new fucking thing. Tumblr ruins fandoms. No, fandom ruins fandoms. That's all I have to say. This shit existed before Tumblr. All Tumblr did was make it accessible.
That's the problem with a lot of these comics people. They don't realize the fact that being that's why I try not to call myself a fan of anything anymore. I enjoy it. I'm not a fan of it. I just enjoy it.
Yeah,
I don't want to be associated with these motherfuckers. I go to conventions. When I started going to Heroes Con back in 2000, I started going there, and it was still focused on comics. It's still focused on comics for the most part, but it was
pop culture seeped in.
Pop culture safety, not as much as like say Dragon Con or like definitely not like San Diego. San Diego Comic Con used to be comics, but now you get a lot of they have the thankfully for the love of God they finally got wise. They have a cosplay ghetto where they basically make all the cosplayers go. And it's over where they have like the Ecto 1 and all the other shit like the Supernat the was it the Charger?
Yeah, the Apollo.
From Supernatural, the Duke Brothers Charger.
Yeah, General Lee.
They put a fucking tarp over the Confederate flag. What the fuck?
Fuck them.
Like that. What the fuck? It's like it's a part of the fucking show.
Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. I remember seeing a video on I think it was on Twitter last year. This woman goes to a convention in Canada and they had a General Lee replica up there. And she's like, oh my god, like freaking out, making a scene. No one else cares.
I think I saw that, and then there was like a Hispanic guy there. He said he had no problem with it either. Like,
yeah, this is have you ever watched the Dukes of fucking Hazzard? There was not an ounce, maybe. I'm probably looking at the rose-colored glasses, but there was no undertones of fucking racism in that show. It's hillbillies.
They hated the cops. Come on.
And they're doing sick jumps in a fucking sweet car. What the fuck is wrong with that?
That makes me want to do it. That makes me want to do a music video, get some Dukes of Hazzard footage, and then cut together. Fuck the police.
Yes. I will co-sign that, sir.
But that's one of those things about like the Japanese when you do shit and like you reference Japanese culture, they don't give a fuck. They're like, hey, we're not being nuked. Thank you.
Oh my god.
This happened in Boston a couple of years ago. I think it was the Japanese Cultural Center or something like that, or at the Boston Museum of Art, they had a Japanese exhibit, and they were actually, if you stopped by the exhibit, you could wear a kimono. They would teach you like kanji painting and this, that, the other thing. They wanted to share in the culture. And then some fucking fuckwads from fucking college town who probably don't even live in fucking Boston. They probably weren't even fucking born in Boston. They're fucking tourists. When they get their degree, they're going to fuck off home, but they're going to fuck up the town while they're there. They're like, this is cultural appropriation. Like write down the fucking SJW fucking checklist, tick all the boxes, and the display got taken away. The Japanese Cultural Center in Boston, they're like, we didn't have an issue with this. We actually enjoyed the fact that, Americans were coming in and getting an idea and taste of Japanese culture. Like, these people are so in a huff to be offended for other people, they don't actually stop to think, would somebody actually be offended by this?
Yeah, it's one of those problems with people, like, they have that Western sensibility, and I mean, as much as, like, I love America, don't get me wrong, but there's certain people in America I can't fucking stand. But those people are the kind that where they look at, oh, how would another culture feel about that? The Japanese have said they don't give a shit. They're just happy, that you care about you want to learn about their culture. It's not cultural appropriation. It's like the same thing with the Redskins, the Washington Redskins and everything. They're making such a big deal out of that, like certain groups, but that's certain, like that's, vocal minority right there, unintentional. Well, a minority for many reasons, considering the genocide of the Native Americans, which is like, what can I do? I can't rewind time. I can't unring that bell.
Yeah.
There's some horrible shit. But you got to think they actually they kind of.
What's worse? I don't mean to cut you off, but that just fucking reminded me of something. So Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts. I kind of grew up in the shadow of that place. Mm-hmm. And their mascot for their sports teams was the Crusader, the Holy Cross Crusaders. They're taking away the fucking Crusader as their fucking mascot.
Now he's going to become the infidel.
Here's the thing. It's a school run by Jesuits. It's a Catholic school to the nth degree. And like I have back channels inside there. Like I said, I grew up in the shadow of the place. They employ a lot of people in the area. Basically, right off the bat, on your fucking cover letter, for if you're going to submit for a resume, your resume for a job there, on your cover letter, all you have to do is just suck the dick of diversity, and you'll get a job.
Yeah, it seems like it's happening a lot lately, right there. But what I was gonna say is, even though the Americans were genocided and everything, and they were forced to go to those like schools where they cut their hair, basically forced them, like basically,
they're trying to anglicize them essentially.
Exactly, the horrible places. Like you start reading about that stuff, and it's like not in a it wasn't so bad back then. Chaining fucking kids to their desks so they wouldn't try to flee. Because when you have like one teacher with 30 kids, trying to teach them English and like the American culture, it's like
one teacher with 30 kids of any fucking age, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Kids would be kids.
Kids would be kids, especially if like you took me away from my parents. Fuck you, bitch.
Scalp you when you're not looking.
With a ruler, take a ruler and just start fucking sawing her scalp off. But they actually had to change the rules back in the day because the Native Americans, when they were playing football back in the day, the old pigskin, that leather helmet, shit,
leatherheads.
They were fucking kicking the shit out of all the fucking Ivy League schools and Native American schools because there's like these guys are they're built, the plains of America and also war with other tribes. This wasn't some hippie bullshit.
Fucking chase down a fucking buffalo and wrestle it to the goddamn ground.
Slit its throat. Yeah, they could kick the shit out of some Ivy League inbred bastard with his snooty finger up in the air, taking the shit out of him on the gridiron, fucking him up. So it's like they had to change the rules because they got so fucking ass blasted.
So that's pass interference. Pass interference is now a thing. You can't rough the fucking kicker.
Yeah, they were like, the kicker hasn't the foot, the ball just motherfucker jumps in the air.
All because John Redcord fucking speared somebody back in fucking 1918.
That's first down. He scalped him on the 30-yard line. That's
oh my god!
This just got really messed up.
It's like instead of like pouring a Gatorade, they pour whiskey.
Oh
no! Oh god! Would it help to say I'm like 1/18th or something? I know it won't help at all. I'm not even sure. But
that's a 23. That's a 23 and me.
23 and me. Yeah.
Hey, 23 and me. 23 and me, motherfucker. Look it up.
You know what's so funny? Like in 1984, everybody's like, oh, gotta watch out for that. Everybody's giving up their fucking DNA to some corporation.
Oh yeah. That's the weirdest thing. Like when people tell me, oh, I gotta find out who I am, ancestry, or like with 23 and me. I'm like, remember Gattaca? It was all about
exactly. That's a great fucking film, though.
That's one thing that really fucking pisses me off is it's like I need to find out who I am by testing my DNA. That's not going to tell you who you are. Your experiences and how you deal with them and like the test of mental and character experience, so on and so forth, that you experience in your life tells you who you are. All the DNA test is going to tell you is what you are ethnically. That's it.
Well, that's it. That's even if they're actually true, because apparently there's some of the 23andMe people.
Oh, they fake them.
They would put like if you had like 23andMe from the South, there were some people saying that you had African origins in your genes, basically. And so people like, how accurate is this? Like to see if they're not like racist. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? It's like lying on their fucking test. It's like how me, it's like I would look at it as like I'm just doing a fucking job, whatever. That's what it says. Here you go. Because I was like, why am I gonna fuck with people like that?
Well, the other thing is that like I've worked in the medical field, and I'm actually wondering if 23andMe has to abide by HIPAA laws, because you're not allowed to falsify, modify, or destroy any data in the medical field.
But it's a private corporation. You voluntarily give up. It's like somebody, if you work for because I work in security, I worked for security for many years, over a decade. And to get anytime, like they were just part of the job, like if they wanted to do a drug test, they do a drug test. They didn't do piss, they did the cheek swab.
Yeah.
And they didn't fuck around with that shit. So it's like you can't really put a fake inside your mouth. You can't really put fake skin. But I voluntarily was giving up, skin cells from the inside of my mouth. That's a part of the gig, and that was a problem. It's like same thing giving up your fingerprints, being fingerprinted within the state and everything. So it's one of those things. So a lot of these people don't realize, like, once that's a corporation, private corporation, so they don't have to abide by those rules.
No, because HIPAA doesn't matter, private corporation or not. If you're dealing with somebody's medical records, anything that deals with them and their health, then you have to abide by certain laws, because private hospitals are private corporations. Doctors can run private practices. That's a private corporation. Doesn't matter. The federal government put HIPAA in place to protect your health information from going out and being used against you.
Same thing with the government putting out the PRISM program to protect you from terrorists.
It goes without saying, but the thing, what I think it actually I actually think it stemmed from was, if no one cares about Joe Schmo's fucking health, but if something came out where it's like Jesse Helms, that fucking old fucking bastard, if it came out that he had but HIPAA was only passed within, I want to say, like, the past, like, 10, 15 years or something like that. But you go back like 20 some odd years, no one gave a fuck about, like, health records. Anybody could go to a fucking hospital and be like, yeah, I want to get the records of so and so. It's like no one cared back then. There was no stopgap to prevent that shit from happening.
So that's what gets kind of weird. I mean, a lot of these people forget that things have changed. Like, there was at one point in time, it's like after that shooting down there in Florida, the school shooting down there, it's like people forget that, like, back in the day, it's like until like 1990, people would have guns in their vehicles and stuff at schools, like high school, especially in the South or rural counties and stuff, rural parts of the country. They'll go hunting and everything. I mean, it's like they'd leave their farms.
Like Red Dawn.
Red Dawn, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that was no, it's no big deal. But after they passed that, and then you start seeing, like, the escalation of these incidents, because, like, people were not armed. This before they had school resource officers. I mean, you had truant officers, and that's about it. But that's in major places, like in the fucking South. I mean, not my area. Like, they would fucking truant, like, just like, he disappeared from school. There was kids, like, there was one girl, it turns out she disappeared from school for a while. She got knocked up. So it's like a middle school girl knocked up. So yeah, that's really, hey, that's the South for you. But that's any place else.
Well, that was like where I grew up. Fucking, there was, like, right now in the city I grew up in, there's a drug war essentially going on, a turf war essentially between two street gangs. And when I was growing up, there was like 5 street gangs, and the kids in the street gangs, they were the ones the truant officer was coming after. There was no truancy officers by the time I got to, like, I think, like, 5th grade or something like that. But it's like all those kids who were going to be involved in illicit activities didn't go to fucking school, so we weren't worried about them shooting up the fucking school. But because, so and so got arrested, because of that, we now have to issue a policy, and this is citywide. If a knife or a gun is brought onto school premises, you get expelled for a year. And then upon the year, they were put under review, basically like, okay, are you a danger to society? Can we let you back in? Those motherfuckers dropped out the first chance they fucking got. Right when they turned 16. Bye. See you. I'm going to go fucking sling rock, motherfuckers. That's what they did. That's what they did. I think I knew like 1 or 2 people who dropped out of school because they actually they legitimately had to drop out of school because, like, they had a sick relative. Or now it's like, my parents died. I'm the fucking, I have custody of my little brother now, shit like that.
I know a guy, he one day, it was like 16, 17, high school. The dude was named Charlie, and he was in the class. He was like kind of the fuck up, kind of that kind of guy. But he was a little, like, anything other than schoolwork. Like, you need your car fixed, you can fix that shit. Like the guy was like he was like a gearhead. He was like anything else, like anything that you couldn't learn in school, like he knew. Like like there's no fucking trade shit. Like he couldn't get ag engineering because the slots had filled up and everything. He would have been perfect for that. But one day he's like, you missed the test. You weren't here yesterday. You missed the test. How you gonna make that up? He's like, I'm not.
Yeah.
So, I don't care. Like, so if you don't care, you want to leave the class? He's like, fuck it. He gets up and walks out of the class, gets in his car, and the fucking teacher's like fucking dumbfounded. Motherfucker like Lurch from Addams Family. And if it wasn't for that dude quitting school, he started working construction. He was making better money than I was. It was fucked up. But he started working. He had an in for a job. My fucking the tie rods in the car I was driving fucking blew out, and the transmission blew at the same. Oh, this fucking like horrific thing. I was coming out of a corner, something happened while I was going into the corner, I would have ended up on either side of the road. Where that corner is like these like man-made lakes, little ponds, shit.
Yeah.
So I would have ended up in like fucking 15 feet of muddy ass water.
Oh,
I would have been fucked. But the car busted up, so I pulled it off the best I could to the side of the road, pushed it, because like fucking it's all fucked up. So I walk. I was like, Charlie lives over here. Oh, I hope he's because it's like after like 5 o'clock. I was like, he's working like a 9 to 5 deal, like some fucking site or some shit, something like that. They were doing some kind of whatever, but he was there fucking drinking beer. Dude's like 17, 18 years old, drinking fucking beer. It's like, hey man, I was like, hey, can you give me a ride to town? He's like, shit, fine. He's like, fucking took the beer with him. I'm riding the goddamn Trans Am with him drinking beer. I'm like, I was like, well, if I missed dying then, I might die now. So I was gonna either have to walk the 7 miles to town, and the fucking the sun was going down, middle of the fucking night, and there's wild critters out there. We got fucking bobcats and shit around. I'm like, fuck. So I was like, bobcat, drunk driver. Bobcat, drunk driver. So it's like one of those things. So thank God for people dropping out of school.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. It's just like if somebody wants to do that, they'll do it. No law is going to stop them from doing it. And this is what the left doesn't really understand right now is, we need tighter controls on guns. No, look at Chicago. I'm willing to bet all these fucking shootings that are happening in Chicago on a fucking daily basis, those aren't legally purchased firearms. That was probably purchased by fucking in the back of a fucking black Econoline van, on fucking on South fucking Wilshire Boulevard. I don't fucking know my way around Chicago. I've never been there, but I'm just kind of spitballing here. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, see that stuff right there. Like, I mean, you're dealing with, and I'm not intentionally seeking out people that have like kind of a conservative mindset, that kind of thing. But it just happens. Like, I mean, it's usually like centrist, and like the thing about it is, it doesn't like that's kind of like how I like to be, because one side or the other usually goes fucking tits up either way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and like people that have like somewhat rational minded. I'm not looking at people, for like, oh, I need somebody to follow. I need someone to tell me what I should like and what I should buy. Like I see this shit happen all the time, showing up on fucking timeline. I'm like, hey, that's great. That person suggested something, but it's like this fucking blind worship almost.
What do you mean, like for a book though?
It's like, this person told me about this book. I bought it because he said so. It's like, that person told you to jump off a bridge. Would you do it? It's like that kind of mindset. It's like, what the fuck, people?
Oh, you mean like if it fits like an ideology or something? Like, is that what you're saying?
Kind of, sort of. It's like where everything they seem to buy and they tout it. It's like because this person told them to. One of these internet reviewers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and it's just it's people like have a fucking. I've picked up books. I'm like, hey, this looks interesting, and like, holy fuck, this was good. I never would have picked it up if like I hadn't taken a chance on it. Picked up stuff. Oh my god, this is horrible. Why did I buy this? But whatever, shit happens. And I've had people recommend stuff. Oh, you'll love this. And I picked up like, oh, what the fuck is this? This sucks.
Yeah.
But it happens. It's like I'd rather take a chance on myself and have myself to blame or think than take somebody's word to be tainted.
Well, that's just this past week I picked up the first 2 volumes of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, how'd that go?
That's really fucking good.
Oh, it is?
It's like like, because I watched the show way back when, fucking 25 years ago, and it's like
Did it? Yeah,
all
I
they,
love
all
that
they
fucking
did,
music, man.
all they did was just take the teen drama that was happening back then and moved it into the modern era. The characters are exactly the same. It just they kind of they put a slightly modern setting to it. They're not modern. They're not Generation Z. They're just typical teenagers. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of timeless, that timeless
Exactly.
take on a teenager thing, like how like the Spielberg movies of the '80s, like they have like that, it's a time, even though it's set in the '80s and everything, it was made in the '80s, it still has like that kind of timeless feel to it.
Yeah, yeah. It's kids being kids essentially. But I plowed through the first volume. I was like, holy fuck. There was local comic book store was having 20% off one item over $9.99. I'm like, oh fuck it, I might as well pick up the second volume while I'm here. And I'm halfway through that one right now. I'm probably gonna pick up the other two next time I get paid. And I got the latest 5 issues leading up into Shattered Grid. And the more I hear about Shattered Grid, I'm like, fuck, why wasn't I reading this fucking thing and keeping up with it from the moment it came out?
That happens a lot, man. Like, because
Oh, it
I'm gonna
does,
be
dude.
I'm gonna be honest, like I almost don't want to even talk about like comic book recommendations because it's either Maranya, Larry, or somebody
I'll
else.
say nothing. I've tried to say nothing. I tried to say nothing. I said, hey, you might like Liberty Meadows and everything, and you're like, fuck.
Liberty Meadows is fucking awesome.
I got volume 1. I haven't finished reading it. I got like a quarter of the way through. And it's funny because I got Green Arrow, right? The issue 39, new guys on the book. The other guy, Juan Ferrero or whatever, his pencils were okay. I just hated the color. Whoever did the coloring, I hated it. It had this weird, like, kind of grungy bronze look. I hated it. I dropped the book because when Otto Schmidt left, I was so PO'd because I was like, his art with Mike Grell's covers was just perfect. But yeah, this new guy came on, and Larry's seen some of his art, like his pencil sketches with like Dazzler and all that type of stuff. He's done some cool stuff. And I looked at it. Yeah, that's the guy. And I was like, I don't know, because I was flipping through the book. I got it right, and I was looking. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this art because it looks more. How do you put it? It's a little. His lines are rougher than his commissions, and as I kept on reading, I was like, I think I can kind of get into this. It was kind of like how Cable, the recent issue of Cable, I was like, I don't know if I like this art. Then I was like, I can kind of get into this. So I got those. I got Deathstroke versus Batman, the recent issue of Deathstroke with this little mini event. I actually like it. And there was one other thing. And Batman White Knight, I got the Renee Montoya cover. And then I went to the other shop and I was trying to look for Trigon Maximum or whatever. They had book 2. They did not have volume 1. And I was like, crap. And then I went to the guy. I was like, do you have a Monkey Man and O'Brien? He's like, he looked at me like a sad eyes. And so I was like, bruh. Nah, man, it's been out of print. It's like, and it was like we had this moment, and I was like, yeah, I think IDW has. And he looked at me, he's like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, he didn't want to say anything. It was like he wanted to say something, but he's at work. So he just looked at me, he's like, oh, that's sad. And then I went over and I was just like, maybe it'll be on this check, but I doubt it'll be there. I was flipping through it, going through the M's, and then I saw Liberty Meadows. I was like, just keep on walking, brother. Just keep on walking. It was like volume 1. Volume 2, volume 3. I was like, just skip it. I was like, I walked off. Like, came back around. I was like, just grab it and just walk out. I was like, hey, Liberty Meadows, just ring it up. He was like, got you. So,
it was like all I could think of is that Dave Chappelle is Rick James kind of beckoning, like, come on, you know you want it.
It's so fun. Like I think people were saying because it was I guess the way he's writing, like I never really thought of Frank Cho as a writer, but he's got this book named Skybound through Boom Studios, that apparently is doing pretty well.
It was a miniseries. I think they said he's going to do a volume 2, but it's a miniseries, and trade paperback should be coming out soon. Because I follow him on Facebook. Facebook's just a messenger I use. It's just an extra messenger because I don't give them motherfuckers any information. I lie when I give them shit. I fucking make things up. They might know I'm lying, but fuck them, they can't prove it. But yeah, he's like, but that right there, he's actually when he draws dudes, I'm a little like, that's a waste of time, dude. But just make it all women, women and monsters.
Well, he
That's
knows.
all people care about. He knows it.
He knows it. He fucking absolutely knows it. The only thing about Frank Cho is the only issue I have with Frank Cho, I should say, is how he tapped out of Mighty Avengers.
Yep.
When he started doing that title with Bendis, like it was more than what he was used to doing.
Well,
And
like,
he only did 5 issues, and those 5 issues took almost a fucking year to come out. And then I think it was after the 5th issue, I think I want to say it was Bagley started working on that title with Bendis.
yeah, that sounds.
And there was a fucking book out every other week. It was like fucking. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from Bagley, dude. He fucking delivers 10 times out of 10, but he knows what he's doing when it comes to big, grandiose titles. Frank Cho is more of an indie artist in that sense. You know,
Liberty Meadows spawned out of a college newspaper.
A comic strip essentially.
Yeah, out of a college newspaper, the Beltville, which is actually a real place. If you take 95 through like DC and go to like DC to Maryland and everything, like going 95, not taking 301, going up towards New Jersey, New York, and everything, taking like the turnpike, all that shit. But the only time I take 95 is like it's like 2 in the morning before the DC traffic, and you're blowing through like you're the Baltimore, the tunnel, the Harbor Tunnel, Baltimore, and everything. But you see the Beltville sign, I'm like, fuck, man, and then you start seeing signs out of Fallout 3. I'm like, Liberty Meadows, Fallout 3, big boobs, robots, lasers,
and it's funny because while I'm reading this, like, okay, so apparently Image started, he canceled it and he started publishing with Image, right? Is my understanding. So he did that. So is there at a certain point that they were all like little comic strip blurbs, or did he just make like full on comics, or he kept that format?
He kept the format, like the individual issues. If I'm not mistaken, like if you look at the standard comic, like where it normally would open up horizontally, if I'm not mistaken, Liberty Meadows opened vertically. The cover would look normal, like it would sit on the shelf normally, but then you would open it almost like a calendar, like the top, like that kind of thing. And so, and then like when you open it up, you would read it horizontally, like there's like 2 strips per page.
Okay.
So if you look at it like portrait, not portrait, landscape. Landscape. So if you landscape in a portrait format, it's like, but you would have to turn the comic to its side. So it's like you're reading. It's similar to if you have the hardcover for 300 that Dark Horse put out. It's similar to that, even though those were. It's like if that was vertical. Like on the shelf, like the cover is that, so it doesn't stand out too much, take up too much shelf space. But that's how they were produced, and I think he just kept that format because it was just easier for him to do it, I guess, because of strips and everything. Right. But the Sunday strips, that's the one I was telling you about. That's actually they're basically the same thing as the main ones, but it's a much more deluxe format. It's like the paper and everything. Right. But it's like Frank Cho is like, he's one of these guys, like he did that Shanna the She-Devil, and they were. It still hurts me to this day that they never put out the Max version, the uncensored version, and it's out there. He's got it. Like the pages exist. I've seen them, and it hurts. It's like, damn you, Marvel. It's like Marvel doesn't want that getting out there for some reason. I guess I think Frank kind of probably irked some people at Marvel for a while. I guess he was kind of like, the people. I mean, like look at what Frank does. I mean, he enjoys drawing the female form. There's certain people that clearly they cannot stand the female form. Either they're jealous or they look at it. It's like, the exploitation.
How are you jealous? It's a real fictional character. It's a piece of ink and paper. How does that's so strange?
You know what this is? You know what this is? This is the modern day Bonfire of the Vanities.
Man,
it's you get these people that. They're I mean, a lot of them, I'm not going to call all of them crazy, but a lot of them are off kilter. They're they're using chemicals to keep themselves, kind of sewn together, but it's like a bag of cats, they're waiting to get out.
It's the generation that was forced to take Ritalin growing up come to fruition in adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's and
Give
like
your kids
I was,
speed, they'll turn out just fine.
yeah, it's like fucking. I can't speak to that because I never actually fucking did this stuff, but I know plenty of kids who fucking grew up on Ritalin. When they weren't on it, they were some of the most creative fucking people I've ever met. When they were on it, nothing. It was the most like it was almost like looking at somebody where you look in their eyes, the lights are on, but nobody's home.
Yeah, that's how. It's my brother. They put him on Ritalin because apparently they couldn't. They were saying, "Oh, he's like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, all that." So let's give him speed to chill him the fuck out. But when he stopped, see, he would stop taking his medication, and he would act like he was taking it and stuff, like in fucking, like kind of like when his mental institution patients, like act like he swallowed it and then actually not really do it. But he was fixing VCRs. Like there was a VCR at school that was busted. He took the motherfucker apart and put it back together. By the time it took the teacher to go get the janitor to come fix it, my brother had it fixed and playing the goddamn tape.
Wow.
Because they had the teacher had a fucking screwdriver in there, was trying to do it herself. This fucking it's like she didn't know what she was doing. She's trying to I could get this. My brother, I took it apart, put it back together.
It's like bitch, you don't even know math. You have to fucking go to you have to go to the teacher's edition.
You know. I mean, he was taking apart he took apart old busted Sega Genesis because we got it used and it was working partially and it started fucking up. He took it apart, cleaned it, put it back together. He would do the same thing with PlayStations. The motherfucker could do that stuff. Can't hold a conversation to save his life, and unless it's something he cares about, he's fucking antisocial as all shit. But hey, that's his thing. I mean, that's like he is more comfortable around machines than I'm like, you put him around a car, he's fucked. But it's technology, like electronics. But,
that's the way shit always was for like the longest time. Like modern civilization and what we know, this is a relatively new thing, you know. Like I can speak to this. My great grandparents were farmers.
Yeah, same here. My grandparents were, fucking sharecroppers. Like my dad's father, and like they didn't even own the house, and they didn't own the house or the land they worked on. They went from fucking farm to farm, and like they get these. Oh well, the farm has a house where the family can stay, but they had to put a damn cage around they had to put a metal cage around the bassinet for the baby or the crib because of fucking wolf rats. They had to, they had fucking wolf rats and had holes in the floor, that kind of shit. Like living in metal, the tin roof had holes in it. They didn't have enough money for the fucking tar to tar the roof, and even then it was not their property. So they do it. They're doing the guy that owns the land a favor. And, like some people are certain, I'm not going to point the finger at my grandfather too much, but he was cheap as fuck. And so he didn't, of course, ain't going to spend money on a place that ain't his and all that. And, that kind of thing. So people forget that, the hard times, like that's some hard time shit, Yeah,
this is still a relatively new thing that what we have going on here. And what I keep telling everybody is like, we beat all the bad guys. There's no bad guys left.
We don't make bad guys. That's the problem.
We're essentially living in a society where we either we are the enemy, we know we're the enemy, we don't give a fuck, or it's like, no, we're not the enemy. I'm fine, you're fine. Basically, just finger pointing.
Yeah, it's it reminds me of the Louis C.K. bit. Everything is amazing, but nobody's happy. It's like we're surrounded by I'm talking to a guy from Texas, a guy from the Bronx, a guy from Massachusetts, and here I am in fucking North Carolina. We got people, one guy from Pennsylvania, another person from the UK. We got people popping up. That kind, like, we're able to communicate across the fucking planet through different time zones. And this is like fucking magic. This is magic. Like you tell somebody back then, it's like science fiction. Like, what is like fucking Flash Gordon going to show up with his ray gun?
Well, that was a friend of mine, like not so much when smartphones came out, but right when you could get internet on your phone, which was a completely different fucking thing. So he goes over to his friend's house, and this is like I don't want to call them white trash because they're good people, but you go over there, it's just like they like goddamn, like I don't know, there was something unright, and they smoke copious amounts of fucking pot. So this dude pulls out his fucking brand new phone. He's just like, "You gotta see this." Fucking scrolls through. He's like, "Check this out." she's fisting this other chick.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And it's like, later on the day, I see my friend, we're smoking a jib. He's like, yeah. So I go over to the guy's house. He pulls out his phone. If Bill Hicks were alive today, it's like, dude, Bill, you don't understand. You died 10 years fucking too soon. You can get fist fucking on your phone.
Oh my God.
But that was like to explain the modern era to somebody, and to just and think about it. This is 14 years ago. Just a fucking leap from then to now. You know, it's like, holy fuck! If you wanted to get fisting, you had to go into the back
Oh God.
room.
Enough with
boy.
that.
Oh
Enough with
boy.
enough. But no, like that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I like, you know, relaying when I had to get my hands on like anime when it wasn't being broadcast, I would have to go and like get the bootleg section at the comic conventions. That's before they got shut down. You had to go there as soon as they opened up, because usually by lunchtime they were gone. They were shut down. The cops dragged them out, everything like that. So that would happen. I mean, they would get fucked because, I mean, they're selling bootlegs. They can't prove that's, you know, legal and everything. So they would make what sales they could and get the fuck out of there. Now, like, you can go on everything. Like, I mean, you got fucking, was it Crunchyroll? You got a bunch of these other things. So if you were to watch his anime,
Verve, I think, has all three of them now. You can just get Verve, and you don't really need to subscribe to it.
That's the new one, ain't it?
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of it's like it's so weird because I used to take into a lot of these series and stuff. Now it's like I can't even be bothered. It doesn't look right. It looks too clean. A lot of it's not hand drawn anymore. Maybe if it is hand drawn, it doesn't look right. It doesn't have that weight to it. It doesn't, you know.
Yeah.
I was trying to think.
If you go back and look at Ninja Scroll, you can definitely tell like there was people who were like working on the brink of dehydration and starvation. I say that only half jokingly, but there was, you know, you look at that and like that's tangible. That was real. That was done in the real world.
Yeah, and that's what inspires me when I see something like that. That's like makes me want to draw.
Yeah, but then you flip it around to like Eureka 7, and I'm not really.
Come on, man!
So you'll bash my Goku on Midnight Eye, but Eureka 7, like you're like, oh, that's too far.
Don't go there. But okay, I'll shit on something that I like. Full Metal Alchemist, the Brotherhood, not the original series, but Brotherhood. You look at that, you can definitely tell there was a lot of that was computer assisted. That was not done in the real world, and it doesn't inspire you to draw. It probably inspires you to maybe write, but not really draw. It's like that. Maybe pick up computer animation. I don't know. To each their own. But it doesn't draw you in with the same passion, if that's the word I'm looking for. It doesn't have the same.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from. Like even just if you look at like, I think just artists in general, right? Like we know some people that like. I was talking to Larry about this. Like, why don't they get this guy in the movie? He's like, he probably can't do knock out a comic in 30 in a month. He can't keep up with monthlies. You probably just can't do that. And he can only do covers, and that's probably it. You can't keep that consistency. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I never really thought of that. I thought it was all the same thing. But
you can have people that do amazing standalone images, amazing commissions and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, their Instagram, their Tumblr, holy fuck, this stuff is incredible. Why aren't they working it? But then you get them to like try to do a graphic story. Like they could draw like a motherfucker. I mean, like I knew people like they basically were just this is like middle school, high school stuff like that. Oh my God, they kill like they would draw themselves as like Dragon Ball Z characters and shit like that, like Super Saiyan stuff. This was before I actually watched Dragon Ball Z because I was like they were watching shit because they were getting like the VHSs and stuff. And me, I'm like whatever because it's like it wasn't airing on any of the channels I had, and it wasn't. But they could do that kind of stuff, but you tried to tell them to draw a story. Like I was doing, and admittedly, they're not the best. And if I could find them, I'd actually put them on Twitter. I have no fucking shame when it comes to that. Get out in front of the cringe. But comic strips I was doing for it's like, well, one of the things like why can't you throw your graduation cap in the air, because we couldn't do that. They had us release fucking balloons like fucking fairies. What the fuck? You know, and so and it was like the reason we couldn't throw hats, our graduation caps, is like, one, it goes into a fan and goes like shredded. And then the other one was like where he gets thrown and it comes back down and impales the dude in the back. He's like bent over the chair.
How fucking sharp? Are you like, seriously? Are you throwing up like fucking aluminum flashing or something?
Yeah, it's like
how fucking sharp? It's fucking chipboard.
And no, it's
chipboard inside there.
Chipboard and polyester.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it's like, but that's the thing. It's like they're that's how like, even litigious and everything, and now fucking PC and like fucking scared and current year that shit even. Oh my god!
The current year, please rise.
14 years ago, dear God, yeah, that's
we can't have a valedictorian, so everyone is the top of the class.
No, they couldn't have valedictorian. They'd have to have valedictorian.
We need to fight the patriarchy.
But here's
go ahead.
But here's my thing. Like, okay, so I know I don't know. I just kind of get annoyed because there's a lot of good stuff out there, and it's kind of hard to get it out there to let other people know, because I don't like to use the Comicsgate, hashtag anymore. I like to use Share Comics, and like New Comic Book Day, and that's probably about it. But unless you want people to know about it, it's almost like you have to use hashtag Comicsgate. Like, it's like you have, otherwise it's going to get buried under a whole bunch of other stuff, or just like even like other people that are trying to get their stuff out there. They're like, yeah, such and such, they don't care. Yeah, they don't care. They're not interested in it. Like, it seems like it's so hard to like self-publish. Like, you can self-publish them, but to get people to find out about it, it's almost like, just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of off. I was on and off Twitter. Now I'm on Twitter like full time, and man, it is rough out there.
Yeah,
people are vicious.
Oh, yeah.
And the entertainment comes from the political stuff, like just yelling at each other about, the new controversy and stuff. I mean, I have this whole comic book, and I'm just like, I peeked my toe in. I'm like, holy crap, what's going on?
Well, that's
how do I pimp this when people just want to fight about this one thing? It's like, it's weird.
Well, think about it this way: like the wind up and cool down between, let's say, major shit happening on the internet used to be maybe every couple of months, maybe a year, there would like some shit would go down. And that time is compacted now, where a fucking scandal happens every like 2 weeks. It's to the point where if you put gate as a suffix in front of a hobby, Gamergate, Comicsgate, fucking whatever gate, now it's just opportunists that fucking jump right on that fucking hashtag. Yo, fucking, are you sick and tired of this fucking mainstream Marvel bullshit? Fucking, like, come check out my fucking title. Fucking hashtag Comicsgate. Okay, what's the link? All you do is fucking throw the hashtag in there. Who the fuck are you? I don't know who you are. Why should I care? But that's, in all honesty, that's what it's become. It's just.
You gave me this amazing idea. I kind of want to do the comic about Comicsgate, where Richard is a Morton Joe. It's like, don't go to like it's like coughing monster, coughing monster warlord. It's
my god!
And like Donald Thump is like this rabbit man. He's got this rabbit pelt thing. He's like a giant like furry, and then like it's like this like
You better watch out, man. They're gonna bash. They're gonna find out about this. Somebody's gonna retweet it.
Rags is gonna like I like Rags, but like Rags is gonna have like this like wearing like a female suit like Buffalo Bill.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like
it rubs the lotion on the skin.
Exactly. It's like the other thing. It's like there's certain people like they're hiding out in the desert. They're like hiding out in this wasteland. It's like, I just want to enjoy my comics. I can't leave. I go here. I get bashed. I go over there. They want to recruit me. I can't go anywhere. And it's like what happens. Like you get people that just want to have enjoy comics, but then because of guilt by association. It's like they want to be recruited into the coughing army, or they're getting called, like racist bigots. And they're blocked from the Holy Land. It's kind of like they're stuck in the middle. They're like in limbo. This is great. I gotta do this shit. Damn it! It better
do it. Dude, I will give you full reign to use Retro Future Ronin as a fucking shit talker. a one panel shit talker in that comic.
Don't do that, because you'll die in the first page. It's like, I ain't scared of you, motherfucker. You're getting impaled. Like,
no, if anything, I'd have to give at least one person a stone cold stunner, and then after that, like, someone can come up behind me and fucking give me the Brutus treatment. You know what I'm saying?
This is better. And it starts out, and like the panel, each of the panels of the page are rounded, so it shows like whether that's a flashback or something, like make it look kind of sketchy and like kind of Ashley Wood like, and then it peels back and you've been impaled. It's like you're dying in dreams, like kicking everybody's ass. It peels back. It's like this kind of
no, it's like
it's like the source wall people impaled. It's a literal comics gate. You peel back
oh my
impaled on it like the source wall.
Yeah, you'd have to have some like almost Ito Junji fucking influence on there, where it's like every person who's been impaled on the comics gate is like living a fucking comic book fantasy, like their own respective comic book fantasy. So it's like,
and the protagonist or the lead part of the story is just a guy who just wants to enjoy his comics and not be associated with anything. So he goes down and there's a cult. And it's like maybe underneath everything, there's like this kind of beneath the Planet of the Apes kind of deal. Like these guys are just they're like there's like a guy that looks like Charlie Brown and like Little Orphan Annie, and they're like, it must be done. And it's like, yes. And he flips the switch and everything just turns white. He's obliterated the earth. He's like, fuck it all.
Oh man.
Sorry, I just spoiled it. Yeah.
That's priceless. No, dude, that's priceless. Shit like that. That's how it fucking starts, man.
Yeah.
that would be a fun comic. I'm not even. But here's even the craziest part is that, like, we know, like, if you put SJW in the title, remember when that stuff used to be hard to find? Remember when that stuff used to be hard to find in the?
It's everywhere now.
Now it's like YouTube's like, there's a market for it. Let's just make it easier to find now. Before, y'all trying to hide that stuff. Now it's like, oh, they get the views now. We can use them for ads. This is perfect. I was like, YouTube is so rigged. But like, if you try to like make a decent quality video and try to like talk about something constructive, like, man, you'll get like 10 views. You talk about you take a horrible like audio like there's people that record, like take the camera on their phone and record the screen of their laptop and like point at the screen with their finger in the camera.
It's
like talk about some, and it gets like 5,000 views about some stupid stuff somebody said. You try to craft a video about something like constructive, 10 views. It's like nobody cares.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's we truly live in the age of guerrilla video. Anyone can shoot anyone can shoot any video and publish it at any time. And that is a God-given fucking fact. But you have the people who are just gonna they're gonna put the production value into it. They're gonna script it out. They're gonna tweak it and get everything perfect, release it. No one gives a fuck. You go on there, you shit talk somebody where it's like you got a VHS camcorder up to your fucking laptop. You're like, yo, check out how fucked up this fucking SJW motherfucker is. This publish it, billion fucking views. Not because it's important, not because this guy has a point, because it's a novelty. Yep. And that's it.
And I'm just wondering, like, how long this can't last forever. It's got to eventually just burn out. It's got to. Like, eventually people got to get tired of this.
Yeah, I think people it's just gonna flame out from people just getting exhausted, Like if the left is like talking about, oh yeah, everyone, this needs to be censored because it's evil and it's toxic, and then the right is just like, well, you insulted veterans, so now you got to go down, your company go down. Eventually there'll be like some kind of, I guess, some nexus point where they just say, all right, we're both tired of censoring each other, we're both tired of getting each other fired and boycotts that will just stop. So maybe it has to go up to this crazy point to stop.
I guess.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it's one of those things where if you look at this, like, people have to get to a point where just Just ignore these guys. Like Daryl Ayo, Heather Antos, all these other guys, Eric Larson. Like Heather Antos left. Now they got Alana Smith to get mad at. Now they have Michelle Perez to get mad at. Now they have.
It's a revolving door, dude.
Just if someone else leaves, like if these people leave the comic industry, they'll find somebody else to get ticked off at. Just stop retweeting their crap. Ignore them. Stop making videos about them and see how their career fares.
Well, that almost reminds me of something that I can't remember who I tweeted out at, but I think it was you and Larry. There was the attitude that all these professionals have, and the routes that these professionals take in the comics industry is not very professional. If someone says your book sucks, then okay, fine. Hey, that's your opinion. And that's it. That's the professional thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. You should just ignore them. When that kind of stuff happens, like, oh, you suck. Okay, whatever. Just ignore them. Don't even acknowledge them. Because what's the point? If you acknowledge them, like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, and it's like, so what they wanted is attention. They didn't, like, I've read comics. I didn't tweet Matt Hawkins like, dude, what the fuck did you do to Cyberforce? How fucking dare you? Same thing with the co-writer and that artist. Like, you guys suck. You should be ashamed of what you've done.
Was you tweeted that? You actually said
no,
that?
I'm just saying. Like,
okay. I was good.
In my head, I joke around about that, but I'm not going to go and do that because, like, that's not going to accomplish anything. Clearly, they have an agenda. The books, they can't. This isn't like the old school X-Men stuff where they would do something and it's like not going so well and they change it. And like they change it on the fly. This ain't gonna happen here. They're sowing the seeds. That's what these first few issues are supposed to be, sowing the seeds. And it's like this. It's a reboot, but also a sequel, so they can get rid of doing the whole like actually following up on threads previously. It's like, oh, it's pointless now. But there's people that will go out there and tweet that kind of shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This sucked. And it took me a lot of because I tweeted alternates like, hey guys, that first issue of the 12, the XII, the lettering in that was horrible. The letters were going outside the word balloons, like very not being like oh, your book sucked, but the colors were shifted, the lettering was off on multiple pages. It was like very unprofessional. I could have tweeted that, but I was like, clearly somebody and nobody was saying anything. I didn't see any people acknowledging it. I was like,
well, that's the flip side of it.
Yeah.
Well, no, but they did. Well, something did happen. Peter Ciametti said he was taking over the lettering for issue 2. So it's like, fuck, I gotta come in here and clean this mess up. It's looking bad on the company. It's like, maybe it's like, he's doing everything himself, so maybe that kind of slipped by. He didn't catch that. But I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to be a leeway. Got to be a leeway for indie people, especially. It's like, I think like as long as you're willing to improve your work, then fans should cut you a break. Like they'll be like, oh, he's listening, he's improving. The next issue, the art looks better.
Look at Chip Zdarsky. Like his writing has improved because everyone was essentially fucking writing him. Like, dude, what the you're gonna make fucking Spidey and fucking Johnny Storm fucking you're gonna make them a gay couple now? Like, that's not either one of those characters, and there's no point. I'm pretty sure there was more vulgar language fucking being used, but to core out the argument, that's what was being said. And it got to the point where it's like he probably looked in the mirror and said, are these the kind of comics I want to write?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is like maybe they're just not getting the signal. Like some people, maybe they're just because it's a trend. You see it on TV, you see it in movies, you see it in video games. It's just a trend. So some people, their hardcore ideologues are going to put this in no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's other people who are like,
it doesn't sell in China.
Right. And it's like, but there are other people who are like, okay, I just thought this was the thing to do. I thought this was like the fad, or I thought this was what people like. Now that I'm hearing that they don't like it, maybe I'll do something else. But I don't know.
It's the if you ever saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when they go into the comic book store and talk to this fucking guy from Mallrats, Jason Lee's character.
Holden.
What's that? Holden, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I wish I didn't know that. I know it, but I hate knowing it.
He's like, here's the pulse. Here's your fingers. so far away, up your ass, away from the fucking pulse. That's to core it out. That's what's going on in the fucking comic book industry right now. Their fingers are not on the pulse of the audience. Their
I'm pretty sure
finger,
though you probably could feel your pulsing if you're that far up your ass. You probably still
hey,
can feel your pulse.
anything's possible. Anything is possible. But
Kevin
what
Smith would know.
at this stage, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's taking his pulse any which way but loose. But for the most part, if you think about it for a minute, like, what are they actually taking for metrics? They're taking metrics of people who go to cons and people who post shit online. But where's their biggest revenue draws coming from? Well, it should be the fucking stores. Anybody and everybody goes to comic book stores. Doesn't matter the demographic, they all show up. There was this weeb guy, was probably about my weight, probably pushing 300 pounds, and what happens? He almost fell on me.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it's like, I didn't think he was a bad dude or anything. It just isn't really awkward step in this fucking store. And he just kind of looking up and just walks forward. What the fuck? And I'm just like, oh Jesus Christ, I was gonna fucking crushed. But it's like I helped him up, no ill will, like in that. But it's like I saw the stickers the guy had on his car, and it's like, wow, dude, like you ain't gonna get a waifu with those fucking things, man. Unless she's into that shit. Unless she's into that too, you ain't ever gonna have a waifu.
The only sticker on the back should matter is that coexist, and then you should just burn the car.
No, he didn't have that. He didn't have that, Larry. I'll send the pictures to you in DM.
Dude, that was like when you showed me that, I was like, why does this guy have that as a sticker? Like,
There's some
what will make him think that was like? How does your mind like? Yeah, that's cool.
No. Here's the thing with anime fans, and this is something I didn't realize till a friend of mine cued me onto it recently. If somebody was really into anime and that's what they kind of based human interaction on, they have no idea how to fucking talk to other people. Like, they think that being withdrawn is being cool. It's not. You're not being stoic. You're being an asshole. It's one thing to be like, "Hey, man, I appreciate you coming by. Drinks are over there. I'm gonna go outside and smoke a joint. Join me if you want, or don't. I don't care." It's one thing if you're gonna be like that, but it's another thing where if you're gonna go to a party and you're just gonna fucking brood in the corner and you're gonna bring everybody's mood down. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between those two. So, a friend of mine, way back when, watched anime like a motherfucker all day, every day. He randomly shows up over another friend's house with not one, not two, but 3 boxes, like big shipping boxes full of hentai.
Oh my God. Here we go. We're back on it.
Oh my God.
Back on this again.
Take note who's mentioning these things, folks. Take note.
Disavow.
So what ends up happening is, like, basically this, for years, this guy could not get a girlfriend because he was basing all of his fucking interactions with other people on anime.
I've seen this too. He's not lying.
And it's just like, no, dude. It might tell a good story. Don't base your life on it, because all that's gonna happen is people are gonna perceive you as an asshole, and you're going to dig yourself deeper in that hole. Don't do it, and that's it. Now, here's the weird thing: the guy who had the 3 boxes of hentai, who that belonged to, he married a chick that was way out of his fucking league because he knocked her up. How that happened, I have no idea. But you know what? Good
Probably
for
a
him.
root feeder. Probably a root feeder.
Spiked your drink.
Spiked the drink. It's like, I saw it in anime once.
My wife.
It's like the only thing I can think of is like we mentioned this guy, all these problems. Oh, that Michael Jordan gift. Stop. Get some help.
The PSA for McDonald's. Just stop.
Yeah, stop
one
doing
drug
McDonald's.
pusher. Here's a drug pusher telling a gambler to tell you to not do drugs.
Exactly. Well, that's a rumor that he got his father killed that way. That's that allegedly that he had some outstanding gambling debts, and they basically said, if you don't pay up, we're going to kill your father. And he's like, they're not going to kill him, and like they killed his father. Like, that's allegedly. I mean, I don't have no proof about that. It's like, that's fucked up. It's like, you're that much of a degenerate gambler, but Who knows, man? Like it's
Wow.
fucking, the world's really fucking weird. It's a weird, wide world out there. But
we get back on Eastern count. Like I feel like we just got
yes, we fucking do.
Well, that's the whole thing. We end up towards like hentai or something completely.
That's why in the description I said other topics. I put in the description other topics just to cover our ass. Well, it didn't help none. I was like, I was like, okay, let's start fresh. So like starts out talking about Legion, how fucking weird it is. Like, all right,
sorry,
Legion.
I had to get that out.
No, it's no problem. It's like I was like Legion, New Mutants, Rob Liefeld. Okay, I could go with that. It's like trying to find the connections, like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with anime and with like 6 Degrees of Kaneda.
This is why we need a chat, because at this stage I'd be like, oh, all right, chat, how long do you think till we fucking fall into the fucking hentai hole?
It's like there's a bunch of fucking live streams happening.
Place your bets now, folks.
Yeah, there's like 5 of them going on right now.
I guarantee not a single one of them can touch the range and depravity that we have this evening.
Hey, I didn't touch any depravity.
I disavow.
Me and Daniel were quiet. Y'all, we let y'all have
I feel bad. Side note, in the chat, I left the link for the full version of Wicked City. So,
well, actually, I got that. I got that one as my favorites. I have it tied in with my the YouTube account that I use. Sign in through my Xbox so I can watch it on my TV. So, I've seen that one before. That was good. It's a good fucking film, and that's another thing. It's like stuff like that. I would love, for like I said, these kind of like a Yoshiaki Kawajiri inspired comic, like a miniseries or something.
Yeah.
Like that kind of, that his pacing, and he did Goku One Midnight Eye and he kicked ass.
Oh yeah.
And I will hear nothing of it. I will not hear this bash. Yoshiki Kawajiri, he can do some wrong considering how twisted some of his stuff can get. But no, like as far as the quality of animation and everything.
Yeah, but that'd be great for a comic, right? Like that kind of style, you know what I mean? Like that's the direction I'm gonna go in. I mean, not
exactly. Yeah, the tone, the horrific body horror violation.
Yeah, Jinja Uti fucking
right.
But yeah, I wish somebody would go along that route, because you couldn't really do it in a standard X-Men comic. You couldn't do it in a Spider-Man. Like that doesn't work. I know they've done that manga, the Marvel manga stuff.
Yeah. The
only one that looked interesting was the Avengers one.
Yeah.
Was where like there's like a female Iron Man and everything. I was like, that's great. I love that. That's fantastic. Kind of like they've done it before with Pepper Potts.
Yeah.
Back in the day before Iron Man 3, but in the process, like when they do stuff like that, it looks weird. It's kind of strange. But I know the one I kind of want to get my hands on, but the rarity of it now, I think it's pretty hard to come by. I haven't looked. Last time I looked was like a year or two back. Was the Star Wars manga? That New Hope, and it looks fucking great. I was like, because I remember seeing samples of it. I think Dark Horse put it out, but now who the fuck knows? Because the licensing and everything. But I was like, holy shit, that looks cool. But that's another thing. It's like like a Japanese-inspired manga adaptation of an American film, which borrows heavily from Japan. So it's kind of a full circle.
A couple. Tokyo Pop. They released a Star Trek manga, and it's serialized. So there's like 5 or 6 different adventures in there, and they did one for the original series, and I think they did one for the Next Generation. They also did a Ghostbusters manga, and it was based off the real Ghostbusters, the proper Ghostbusters, not the Filmation Ghostbusters, not unless answer the call bullshit. And that was actually pretty good too, because the writers kept true to the characters. They put them in different situations, styled them differently for obvious reasons, but they were very well done. I have those floating around somewhere in my supply chain. If I come across them, I'll definitely post some screenshots from them, because really good. I might actually include the Star Trek one in the care package I'm going to send Braylon. So
cool.
Nice. Who knows? But when you get stuff like that, it doesn't really reach out to the mainstream audience, and I think it's one, promotion, and 2, there's too many people afraid that, oh my God, they're going to shit on my childhood.
Yeah, a lot of that, I get that. And there's a lot of people that when it comes to like main, like, I wish, and I've talked to people about this, and I'm like, I wish I get the traction. Like, if I had my way, it'd already be a thing. Shonen Jump, when they started putting out their Shonen Jump here in the States, where it's like $5 for like 180, 200, 300 pages, black and white, monthly. And they had like everything from, you had, was it, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Yu-Gi-Oh, a bunch of other
Bleach,
stuff. Yeah, Bleach and everything. And I'm like thinking, and a One Piece and everything, which this is how dumb I am, because the way they stylized the One Piece logo, I thought it was called Nepigok.
Oh, jeez.
I was that fucking stupid. I was like, oh my God, that's the American Southern education system failing me yet again.
Hey, I'll just say this. My first anime convention, I was at Anime USA back in 2005, south of the Mason-Dixon. I had no fucking clue what I was in for. That's all I'm saying.
You come down, that's the thing, like, you come from the New England, you come down south, it's like somebody from the south going up New England. It's like, what the fuck? It's an alien world. I mean, I know people that've gone like Rhode Island and shit. It's like, what the fuck? It's like going to an alien planet.
Oh my God, I was actually in Rhode Island this past weekend. It is weird.
It's a weird place. It's like, it's
slightly off. It's not exactly what I'm used to.
It's like something from Lovecraft. It's like missing the giant sea monster.
Hey, he is
that we know of. But
he is Providence.
Oh my God! But that, like, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about what Braylon was saying a while ago about how he's found all these great artists on Instagram that are kind of like this anime, manga inspired, people, but they're not doing comics, or the comic book companies are not contacting them, and they're afraid they may not be able to do sequentials or something. But isn't there a way to like have them try out or do something on a lower level or something, just as a tryout?
They're not willing to risk it. Because there used to be like Marvel Presents where they used to have people fill in for an issue and stuff like that. Like even Joe Mad when he was on X-Men. But I think that like they don't either want to risk it, or they don't want to spend the money, or they just like, oh, we don't want to let somebody new in the crew, because if we do that, he's probably gonna start changing up stuff. We're probably gonna have,
Well, yeah, you can't break the house style.
We're gonna have good stories.
Risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the art styles they have now are just kind of bizarre in some of these companies. Like, one guy on Twitter said like one of these guys look like Super Jail, like from.
Oh God, yeah. There's a Johnny Ryan is the name of the. He's not the guy who created Super Jail, but Johnny Ryan did this comic called Prison Pit. Prison Pit predated, I believe, Super Jail, and it's basically about this guy ending up on prison. He's like this kind of supervillain monster man, whatever, and it's a weird ass comic, but the style's very similar.
Right, but believe that people with a style like that doing comics, or they have like some Tumblr guy do a comic book, and it's just, why is that guy trusted but like the other guy not? Like, I feel like
pay some peanuts.
Chris,
he wants to work in Marvel for so much. Like, he wants to work in Marvel so bad that he's willing to do whatever they ask him to do.
Yeah,
so. Chris Anka comes to mind. That guy right there, his style, it's like that. Almost, it looks like something that would have been at one time like bland, costume designs. Mm-hmm. I know he does that with Rogue Gambit book now.
Yeah,
but I'm like, who decided to hire this guy? And I think he had to know people on the inside, because it's like, it really is true. It's not what you can do it so you know. But then you have people like back in the day, like, even though he was like, I'll never come to America because they voted for Trump. Humberto Ramos, he did Crimson, he did Impulse and everything. He's like from Mexico City. It's like, I don't think he was like 10 years old in Mexico. They discovered him, and then he started working on Impulse. He's like 10 or 11, which is fucking psychotic. Like, first off, how did they find this kid? This is pre-internet, pre-proliferation of the internet. So somebody was out there looking for like 10-year-old Mexican boys. That's kind of weird. DC editors.
He was that young doing professional art.
Yeah,
he was legitimately like
10 or 11. Yeah, like he was a tween. He was a fucking tween doing all that art. And then you had somebody like Joe Mad was like 15, 16. Same thing with Liefeld. And people forget Liefeld's art was not always this way. It was actually really good back in the day. And then he just started like stripping it down to get it out faster, which is hilarious considering how long it would take him to do art, because he was just like slacking off because he could. Because what are they going to do? This guy is like making sales on these books. These books are at the time pushing like 750,000 copies, and then like 500,000, 750,000, and then the X-Force #1 like 1 million copies and all that stuff. and he's still seeing float around, but they're still out. He's still, the sales are made, the stores paid the money, and then eventually they went bankrupt and had to go out of business. But the books got sold, and in doing so, like these people, like they were pushing themselves, and Liefeld had that little look at Ramos. I mean, like that shit's like over exaggerated. That's gotta have that. That's an Eastern influence right there.
Sure.
It's like if you look at Crimson, like the women in there, like they all look like something out of a manga. Even though like Crimson's a weird book and it's the vampires and stuff and everything, and but it's and that's what's weird. You see Liefeld stroke out on his own. Humberto Ramos, same thing. J. Scott Campbell, like, and then the other one, Jamad, the Cliffhanger guys. All three of them had they had that manga influence, anime influence style, and they did their own thing. The only one that's kind of still doing things on a regular basis would be it's J. Scott Campbell with his covers. And even then, it's like he's just doing covers. He's not even really doing interiors. It's sad. It's like,
does he really want to? Like, but so much. Like, here's the thing: Frank Cho and J. Scott Campbell make so much money off of covers. Like, what reason would they need to go back to doing interiors in a book for monthlies? Like, why? With the amount of money they're making, like, it would have to be some really good writing and a person they're really cool with to jump on. And you don't have any of those.
Yeah, it would end up being like a passion project. It wouldn't be. They don't need to do that to pay the bills.
Exactly.
Yeah, they make more money doing the covers, the variant covers, and then they could sell not only making the money from the company for that cover to do that work, but they get to keep the original art, which means they could sell that original art and also do other variants of that variant, and then can make that by selling it at their shop. I think you were telling me, Braylon.
Yeah.
So in doing so, they're making more money there and putting less effort into it. So they can kick back in their Italian villas or whatever they have, and set up shop and then, do whatever and like do other commissions for a lot of fucking money. And they don't have nobody to like tell them, hey, you got to go do this over, you got to do that over. No, they don't have. They have like, why would they go and do 20, 22 page comics? That's another thing. The whole fucking page count thing. It's like Marvel. It used to be like 24, then it was down to 20, then it was down.
21 now, I think.
Well, actually, a lot of them are now only 20. So anytime, $20 and 20 pages, and you pay like $4, if not $5, for like that many. It's like that. See, that's what's so fucked up. It's like I got these Wizard half issues, and all of them for the most part are 16 pages stories, but they pack that shit full. Like I have this Nightwing story. It's a Nightwing half issue, and there's a guy's mob informant, and the U.S. Marshals have him, and he escapes, and Nightwing's got to track him down, and it has enough character moments. Like he's got to get back to his apartment because his landlord / the woman is hitting on him is supposed to stop by and see him, and so he's got to like take his shirt off, or the Nightwing, like the Nightwing stuff. So he's like, oh, I was just in the shower, even though he's like all sweaty and shit from being like jumping around the city. He's supposed to act like he's just got out of the shower or whatever, and she's trying to take a peek, check out his package. It's like, get those kind of, and it was like a page and a half. It's kind of funny thing, and then he goes back and does his thing, tracking down the guy, and it's like a lot of action, but it's still character moments. You can't even get that in most comics these days. And this is a fucking mail away comic. This is adjusting for inflation, shipping, handling, all that shit. It was about $5-6 back then, so it's like be about the same price roughly now, $7, which they considering they were limited, even though they're probably published about like 100,000 copies each. They would call it limited, which is a lie. But these kind of things, these people, they're so decompressed, and I think that's a part of that Western, the Westerns taking on the Eastern influence, decompressing the stories for most part. Because even though I do have some manga, there's I forgot the guy's name. He did the book is called Pushman and Other Stories. It's an anthology, a bunch of little short stories where there's a guy, he's like, he works on the subway system. He pushes, the train system pushes people onto the subway, on the train cars. Like I said, like at the rush hour, so they can get as many people on. And there's like other stories in there, like really fucking weird. Like there's a guy who inherits a woman that has no teeth. She has been, basically it's a sex slave. He inherits a sex slave. It's really fucked up. There's some really dark shit. It goes from standard Tatsumi. Yes, yeah, that's it. You nailed it, dude. Yoshihiro Tatsumi. But yeah, it's really fucking weird. It's disturbing, but I could see that kind of like it's, and even that was, even though their stories are very straightforward for the most part, but that decompression hurts, and I think you've seen that. And the writing for the trade, I mean, that's no different than when they would serialize the stories and then slam them together in the standard pocket size mangas and everything. Like that right there, like a Lone Wolf and Cub. Each story is about 60 pages, and then you'd have the little fat small little collections like 300 pages, and they're about a little bit bigger than like like a candy like the box of candies like you get at a like a hot hot tamales like you'd get in the movie theater. They're about a little bigger, a little smaller height wise, but double if not triple the thickness. So yeah, it's like, I mean, this decompression, it's hurting. It hurts, and it hurts the people who buy the comic. You're like, I want to read a whole story. You only get a fifth of a story, so it's like, what the fuck?
For $4.
Yeah, exactly. Why pay $4 when you can go pay $8 and buy a 200-page manga, right? The fuck?
If something takes for trade, it should be a trade.
Yes,
it's instantly a trade. But
and when I picked up recently the Ninjak, Volume 1 from Valiant, and that's another thing with that whole let's boycott Valiant because some former editor was like, how dare he shit on me? He doesn't know that I'm really Asian. And I'm like, you know what? You using your identity is just as bad as somebody else saying, how dare he I'm a woman, and how like, you just replace a few words and it fits. But Valiant put out the it's like $9.99 for that first volume. It's like five issues in it, and it's like they nailed it fucking out of the park. It hooked me. I gotta get Volume 2 next time I go to the shop, and that kind of thing. And Ninjak is basically it's somebody described it as if Raiden from Metal Gear was James Bond, and that's basically it. So it's really cool. It's good stuff, but with these comics, and that when they decompress them to that extent, when they go a little too far, they get a little too far east, you end up ruining the main stories. Like these, you take these influences, that's no problem, but take the correct influences.
Right. So you want the Western pacing, but the Eastern artistic influence in there.
Artistic and concepts, yeah, because it's like you look at the Japanese. I mean, they had one of my favorite books I have right behind me. It's called Bat Manga. It is the Japanese, when the 66 Batman, the Adam West Batman, they were doing comics that were inspired by that Batman. They had some stuff that was kind of based. They had like Clayface show up, and he was never in the show. And they had a character named Lord Deathman, based off of this. He was a guy that would fake his death, and he was like messing with Batman's head, like, "Aha, you killed me, haha." But it's like the kind of that Speed Racer kind of deal going on. That right there, that was fantastic because the stories weren't too long, they weren't too drawn out. It was the way they were done, because it was smaller size, of course, it was blown up for the collection. But that right there, that worked fine. But the concepts, the visual storytelling, that's fine. But it's that pacing. The Eastern pacing kills books, and I've seen that creep in. You look at a book from Ed Brubaker, like one of his, the noir stories he does. You will not find any Eastern pacing at all. That's straight up Western, baby. It's American, Merc storytelling. But I would love to see like some kind of, something along the lines of Snatcher, but done by Ed Brubaker.
Yeah.
That would be so cool, man.
I would kill for that, because I would love to see something just brutal. Like I want decapitations, maggots crawling out of eyes, cyborgs, people ripping off other people's flesh. I want some horrible stuff, but a Western compression.
Well, the thing they have to think about is also audience. Over in Japan, they're not as puritanical. It's not as ingrained into their society, or it's ingrained differently. Because obviously, you look at porn and it's blurred, but over here it's like sky's the limit, motherfucker. Just so long as you don't expose kids to it, doesn't matter. Sky's the fucking limit. but there's people who they generally don't want to see, like you said, like faces blown off with fucking maggots crawling around them. Nobody really wants to see that. The people who want to see that stuff are the people who went to go see Hostel. Yeah, that's the right movie. But I if like Brubaker was to do something like Snatcher, I think would be fucking phenomenal. But the level of the graphic level of things in Japan as opposed to what's going on over here, like everything would be a fucking Max title. Everything would be a Vertigo title. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess
They
the indie guys could do something like that. I mean, I
You
don't
could
know
never,
why.
like that's the thing. Image, like I mean, Image, they just slapped the mature rating on it. And you could do. Larson's been doing pornography. There is no like I don't know if I can define pornography, but I know it when I see it. That's pornography. There's no way around that. And hey, that's his thing. That's his book. He wants to do it. He isn't taking the Hulk and doing that to him, you know, and She-Hulk and everything. Like, dear God, it's like,
oh, please leave my She-Hulk alone.
yeah, it's like, good news, folks. She-Hulk's back to being sexy. Bad news, Eric Larson's got a hold of her. No.
Oh man, that would give me nightmares, bro. Oh man.
But that's the thing. It's like that, you know, like you can take those Eastern ideals and convert them to Western concepts. And I honestly think, even though the old school compression, that's fine. But I'm kind of a big fan of like 2000 AD and a lot of the British books because they would have to tell a story within 5 to 6 pages. They did not fuck around, and you got a 5 or 6 page story, unless it was like a multi-part epic, like one of the Dread ones, like the Block War or the Apocalypse War, where it was like 12 or 20 parts or whatever. It was like, but the books were coming out weekly, you know.
How do you get those? Because like whenever you look up Judge Dredd, it's just IDW's crap. Like it's
you either have to buy them digitally or you can buy you can actually buy the back ones. Like I actually went on eBay, and I was at the time I was big into I still am, but I read it also. I kind of lost the fire died down. But there was a book called oh damn it, Grant Morrison, Steve Yoel, Zenith was the name of the book. It was a basically punk rock superhero.
Yeah.
okay.
And it was published in 2000 AD. So I had to buy these lots of 2000 AD. It's like issues like 380 something, Prague's 380 to 410 or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're magazine size, but they're like only 32 pages. So the paper's kind of it's like newsprint, but it's like thin. It's really thin stuff, and for the most part,
it's practically tissue paper.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, like, each story was self-contained. You had stuff in there. You had like multiple. It's an anthology.
Well, it was almost like the Marvel Comics Presents,
but much more dense, because Marvel Comics Presents was like each story was like 8 pages. There was only 3 stories and then like a preview.
Yeah, and
this was 6 stories and like 5 pages each.
Yeah. Yeah, so like with like Judge Dredd, you had to compress the ever living fuck out of your story. But the thing is, all the great British comics writers, I think it's on Amazon. There's a documentary about 2000 AD. You name the British writer, the British comics writer. They did a stint on 2000 AD. It's the only thing I can compare it to is something that was, I think Patrick Stewart said in an interview, is why are all the British actors like Shakespearean? Is because they don't have Hollywood over there. They have the theater. So in order to do the theater, you have to study Shakespeare. You have to bring it on that level. You have to be familiar with that work. So they don't have a comics industry over there. They have 2000 AD. That's it.
Well, they do have DC Thompson. DC Thompson's out of Scotland, and DC Thompson, they would do these comics. They were each page was 2 panels.
Yeah.
There's no different, but they added up to be, if they have standard comics 22 pages and they had 6 panels per page, added up to be whatever, like 100, whatever, 80, like 100 pages or something like that. My math is bad. I'm not going to do it. I fail, but they would do that, but they wouldn't even name the writer or artist. They had the name of the book, and they had DC Thompson, how to contact them, but they wouldn't put the name of the writer or the artist on the book because they want the writer or artist to be popular. They were like, the book is the book. It's like now giving the writer or artist credit. Now, 2000 AD, and same thing with the other books like Warriors, where Miracle Man and a couple other stuff came out of.
Yeah.
There's a comic called Third World War. It was about this woman, like basically they're fighting. It's kind of like a parody. They're down in South America fighting like these ranchers and stuff, taking over parts of Brazil, turning it into like grazing grounds for cattle. But they actually had to. They couldn't. You couldn't fuck around when you have only 5 pages to tell a story. You couldn't be pulling your Quentin Tarantino bullshit where you just have characters just stand around talking about nothing. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to tell a story.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I think a lot of like if you look at again Bendis, his whole thing is David Mamet. Have you ever like sat down and watched a David Mamet film? People don't talk like that, and they're good movies. Like if you ever watch Spartan, if you get the chance.
Oh yeah, Spartan's great. Yeah,
that's a great fucking movie. But like, no one talks like that in real life. And I know Val Kilmer is a great actor, but some of the fucking lines that he delivers in that movie, like they're good lines. It's just shitty delivery. But that's like that's the whole thing. It's just like there's scenes where it's just like, okay, there's more action happening on the screen than dialogue or anything else. So it's everything's being shown for a purpose, and that's it.
Well, Bendis is just as guilty as taking way too much influence from David Simon, creator of The Wire and Homicide: Life on the Street, and because especially a lot of his stuff is like very.
Homicide was a great fucking show.
Yeah, Homicide, so good. Like I've not been able to finish the book. I start reading, something comes up. I've had a book for like almost like 7 years now. I have not been able to finish it because I get like, okay, I'm start over from the beginning. You get like 60 to 100 pages in, and then something comes up and I never get back to it. It's like I gotta start over again. But that's what happens. I mean, a lot of these people like they'll take like Osamu Tezuka, doing like I know he did Phoenix. And I know Blackjack is an amazing book if you've never read that.
I was actually on a chase for Blackjack a bunch of years ago. I can never get my hands on any of them. So,
well, they re-released them, but it was like one of those things. Like I fucking loved it. They're like, I mean, it's so weird. It's like they were like serialized stories. Like they each one of them like kind of stood alone for the most part. But there's that one where there's like this actress and she's got like a one of these twin she's wearing a mask. You don't know which actress she is. Like she's like hiding her identity even from Blackjack. And he's like this kind of. He's like if House was a black market surgeon. That's what I love about it. It's like that's the kind of show I'd like to see. Blackjack, a live action kind of black expert.
Oh fuck yeah!
But I knew they did the anime. I never saw it because I never got.
I saw bits and pieces of it. I saw I think they made like a movie and then they made like a prequel series that was kind of like a 15 episode like prequel series,
like an OVA kind of deal.
Yeah, it was kind of weird how they did that, but yeah, they did. That was a couple years back though.
Well, like, see, if somebody took because a lot of people, they at one time, especially in the 50s, like when they had the General Hospitals, a lot of the doctor shows and stuff like the soap operas, they tried to make hospital comics, like doctor-based comics. It didn't quite work out. But if somebody were to do something like Blackjack, like this black market surgeon who could do anything, he's a wizard with his hands. It could do anything. Like, your face is all fucked up. He'll fix you. Like, oh, thank you for fixing my face. Turns out he made the guy look like he's an assassin. He's just making his face look like he just takes somebody out. So he's got to take him out with his surgical skills or some shit like that or whatever. I don't know. Like that kind of thing. Like I could love to see that kind of thing. Like there's another idea I wish I could do. It's like I come up with the ideas. I never have the chance to do them. But
that's also like a form of meta storytelling too. Like thinking back to when we were talking about Fell, that Ellis comic, where you have each issue was telling a story and it was self-contained, but you had those nuns with the Nixon masks on that were pulling. I think it was like pulling heists or something, and that was the bigger story. That's what something was leading into, and that's what a lot of manga do. There's the big overall story that we'll get to this at the end. But everything that we do, everything that we have these characters do, is going to relate somehow, some way to the overall story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
So with something like that, where it's like you have a like a black market fucking house essentially. Like House was a very self-contained series. Nothing really spilled out throughout the whole except for like his drug addiction essentially. But it's like you could tell in that decompressed format or the Japanese format, because when we talk about decompressed, I'm thinking like you flip open an issue of Ultimate Spider-Man and Mary Jane says something like, let's go on a date to Peter. And then there's 5 fucking panels of Peter. The only thing that changes is the expression in his eyes. Like, what? What? And then you flip through fucking 5 more pages, then he responds.
Yep.
Like, that's how I know I'm obviously fucking embellishing, but that's the point. It just got so fucking stupid. Whereas, like with manga, the page is smaller, so you can't get the same panel count. So you're gonna have a higher page count. That's why that seems decompressed, but they're also going to tell bigger stories over time, and not fillers, not stories with filler either. Because the more panels you have, without doing anything real with them, it's just filler. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking over at my bookshelf. I want to say the first 20 volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man. If I was to actually compress those and compile them, I'd probably have maybe 5 comics there, maybe 5 trades.
Yeah,
At least 100
that's
pages.
definitely the case.
You know, but like the Japanese means of storytelling is they're going to tell stories within a story, not so much to a meta level. That's a different genre, but for the most part, like that's what they do, and they, do it very well. You know.
And I think that's probably one of the other issues is that, like we'd mentioned, like, okay, so Image is known for writing for trade, period, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the creators do that, yeah, with their own books.
And Descender is one of those comics that I really enjoy, but like I can't read those things in single issues. Like I tried that for like 2 months, and I was like, I can't deal with this. Not to mention you get like 3 pages of a preview comic. So it's like it's so irritating, but the story is so great because you can tell it's a bigger story. It's not going to get rebooted in the next 6-7 months with new characters, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get that. And if you like just grab like the first 3 trades, like there is I don't like to use the word epic because it's like it's overused, but you can tell there's this grand story that's getting built up over time. So in the single issues, it doesn't seem like much of anything's happening. But when you read the trades, you're like, whoa, okay, there's a lot going on here. There's a whole bunch of pieces on the board. How's it going to pan out? So you get that cool stuff with Jeff Lemire. But so many times, like there's a comic, like we know it's written for the trade, but like these 3 issues aren't going to matter. They're just there to like have a book on the shelf. And a lot of times, a lot of these writers, they don't know what direction they're going in. Like they don't have it planned out. Like they don't have
you can definitely tell when somebody starts a run, they're kind of feeling like they're kind of getting their footing in place and see where they're going to go with it. New Avengers, Bendis' run on New Avengers, fucking Echo. That was a waste of a character. Like
I didn't care for the character. I understood what they were trying to go for, but it's one of these. She really had no character. And it's like it was there was nothing to her.
Yeah, there was nothing to her. But the fact is, like he put her there for a purpose, but she had no fucking purpose.
Sounds like somebody else that recently. Riri. I mean, that's what it feels like. That right there feels like it being the case. It's like like there's no problem with having these characters come in. I mean, you look back at, like even the mangas and animes and everything, especially the 60s and 70s, you had the hero and you had the hero sidekick, and usually, the love interest and everything. Like, and you look at Speed Racer, look at, shit, what's the other one? Is Ultraman?
Yeah.
Like there's always there's usually a sidekick character floating around there. And that's usually the case. And I mean, hey, that's fine. Maybe that's a concept that was predated Robin showing up, but who knows? I mean, that right there could be like the influence on either side, like the coast-wise. Yeah. But you're looking at like I'm looking at a stack of those old shonens, and like I was saying, is you'd have to have somebody. I know Marvel probably wouldn't do it. They did it in the past. I actually found these. It's called X-Men Universe.
Yeah,
there were 3 or 4 X-Men comics in one. I was like, and so it's like 20 pages each, 22 pages each, or whatever. So you got 60, 80 pages of comics for like $5, which is like,
that's a steal.
It is. But I'm just thinking, like, you'd have to have somebody like Skybound, which is Kirkman's imprint over there, Image. Yeah. So imagine you have a bunch of stories, like say you have like say 12, like say no more than maybe 16 pages, like less than, let's say 12 and less, like between 6 and 12 pages. Yeah. And then you had like one of these fat black and white, like Shonen Jump style, just like people submitting stories, and just like, and so you get to keep your copyright, your characters and everything. It's like going to be like first run serialization and everything, and like that, like putting out content like that, like that. How fucking cool would that be? For like each month have like $5 for like a black and white phone book of nothing but comics.
Oh yeah,
well, running the gamut of everything from science fiction, superhero to whatever.
There'd be something for everybody.
Exactly. You got a little romance thrown in there too, a little horror. Maybe not too bad, not too graphic horror. Like, I don't want reading like some, whatever, standard superhero fair and then flip the page and there's like somebody's spine getting ripped out, and like a woman being like, like whatever, that kind of thing. Like really horrific shit. But keep it like somewhat in between like a guidepost.
Yeah, real quick, I do got a jet. I just saw the time and it's like, oh fuck, I gotta throw dinner in the oven. So gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Mr. King, thanks for having me on. Thanks for dealing with my bullshit and the fucking hentai. And
yes, I knew it was going to be mentioned again. I knew he was going to bring that up before you leave. You couldn't help yourself. You couldn't help yourself. Go enjoy your dinner and good luck, sir.
We'll talk later, gentlemen. Have a good night.
All right. See you later, man.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like when you have these, like when you have these like fat collections. I mean, I know Alternative's doing something similar that came out on Wednesday, but it's not going to be that size. It's not going to have that, that length, that kind of that scope. And I would love to see that, like that kind of like taking a page out of out of that Japanese playbook, and like like still treat people decently and fair. Like they get to keep their characters. Maybe like a like you can't like, as far as like collection wise, it's like, whatever's serialized in that. And then down the line, if it's popular enough, hey, we're getting some feedback, they want to see more of this, we'll collect the first bunch of chapters into one collection or something, like its own trade paperback. I mean, how cool would that be? I mean, like, they do that already with, that's how I got some of my Judge Dredd. I got the ABC Warriors as well as, what's the other one? Bad Company. The comic Bad Company is like they're a bunch of freaks and monsters, basically like Frankenstein and his crew. It's, but the stories are like 5-6 page stories, but most of them are standalone, and they stand by themselves. And like, it was the last time you read a American comic that stood by itself? And that's 20 plus pages usually.
Yeah.
It's hard. You find them back in the day, like you'd have some threads working your way through, but you don't even find standalone stories anymore. It's like, everything's got to be a part of a bigger. It's like the Marvel. That's why I don't watch the Marvel movies anymore, because they're all like a part of. It's not a standalone movie really. Is like even I'm talking about like I want something like Batman '89 didn't tie like it didn't tie into like a bigger universe. It's like this tentpole stuff. I like stuff when it stands by itself, and
right.
Like I understand that the X-Men are in the same universe as the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, but it's like, well, why didn't the X-Men show up and save Peter Parker when he was in trouble? Why didn't this? It's like that kind of. You start thinking like that, and it gets kind of ruins the aesthetic of the world. That's also poor writing too, when your mind starts wandering. But maybe that's just me being a little too. I guess callous or cynical, but
now, what would make the anthology different from just taking a bunch of other stories and like what would be the unifying thing about it, or is it just separate stories just slammed together? Is there like a theme?
Well, I like the idea of separate stories. The themes, like those themed anthologies. Like a friend of mine asked me to submit to an anthology series. Like there was like going for a charity, and I was like, because it's the thing you told me the theme and everything. I was like, I can't force myself to work in that theme. It's like that's why I could never be a professional comic creator. I couldn't do that, especially artists. Like, hey, this is what you got to do. I was like, I won't do that. It's like, I was like, you can't or won't. I says I won't, because it's like I can't force. It's hard to. I'm unable to force myself
as an artist. Like, is there like anything you don't want to do? Like I don't like westerns. Some people won't draw westerns, or some. Is there like a genre you won't do, like you don't want to do? Or?
Well, it's mainly I don't like drawing anything I have to have photo reference for. So it's like that's why I like drawing pretty women's,
Yeah.
monsters. It's because I don't need photo reference for them. It's like if they were living like a Salvador Dali landscape that was like kind of like very weird and dreamlike, I could get away with it. It's like have you ever read the Max, the Sam Keith comic, the Max?
A long time ago, yeah.
You know the part when they're in the outback, it's like this kind of dreamlike, like savanna plains and everything, that kind of deal.
Yep.
If I could do a whole comic like that, pretty women, monsters, a simple background, I could kill it. But
yeah,
as you draw a city, and have to do because you got to do the proper, everybody's like, oh, you get perspective. Oh, it all falls into place. Bullshit. Then you got to draw the windows. You got to draw the sides of the buildings. You can get really lazy, but then people call you out and shit. Especially if you get lazy on the buildings, and it transfers over to everything else. So either got to work a way around it. Get good. I was like, I don't want to fucking draw buildings. These are boring as fuck. But you got to draw a city. It's like, oh fuck. Wish I could just do it like German expressionism, just like kind of weird, weird freaky shit. It's like, but it's like when it comes to that, it's like I know a lot of the Japanese ones. Like you look at Shonen Jump, the boys comics, and you got you got more the female themed ones as well. Like I had one. I remember picking it up like way after the fact. It was in these back issue bins at the comic store I used to go to. It was like $1 a book, and it was An America. And
oh yeah,
they had like not eyes. What's the other one? Video Girl Eye. That romance.
Yeah.
Which
basically weird science, pretty much.
It's weird science, but it got really dark. It's like
at the very end, it got real depressing.
Oh my god! Like it's like, oh yeah, I gotta get there to save her from being raped. Oh, too late. I'm like, oh my god, why did I read this comic? It's like, no, I don't. It's like it's been happy-go-lucky. It's been like, oh shucks, he's not gonna get the girl, and it has to go that route. It's like, no, I don't want this in my comics. What the fuck? But the other one, there was a company tried to like do coast off of the success of Shonen Jump, and it was called Raijin Comics, Raigin, I think it was called. And they put out like City Hunter and Fist of the North Star and all that stuff. And like this kind of the format was about the same price but smaller, like the page count. But like City Hunter, I was like, oh my god, this is great. And then of course the company like imploded pretty quickly after. But yeah, like City Hunter was Hojo Tsukasa was his name, the creator. But yeah, like Fist of the North Star. I mean, everybody knew about Fist of the North Star.
Oh yeah, the good stuff. Yeah.
You're already dead. Like love that. It's like, I mean, I honestly think Kenshiro could kick the shit out of Wolverine. It's like Kenshiro had a building fall on top of him and didn't give a fuck. Like, oh, you got adamantium claws. That's nice. And then like his brain start melting out of his adamantium skull. I just love to see that. Fracture adamantium. Like that would be cool. I mean,
that's what comics need now. Just people talking about like, remember that cool part? Like the Chris Farley show from SNL. He just tell you the cool parts of the movie.
Remember that cool part of the movie you were in? Yeah, it was good. It's like they kind of just shallow.
Yeah. Right now, it's just like trying to be super cerebral, and it's just not happening.
Just boring.
Yeah,
it's a college philosophy class.
Yeah, and it's not smart. I mean, if you look at these political comics now, or they trying to put politics in, it's like they're not even taking account like all sides of the political spectrum. It's just an echo chamber, just going on and on and on. I mean, I wouldn't even mind politics in comics if it was interesting, like if it was like not just the same echo chamber stuff. Like, why don't you talk about surveillance state? Why don't you talk about both sides are funding the surveillance state? Or
that's what's so funny about that Cyberforce Hunter Killer. Like that, the comic came out like 2010, and written by Mark Waid. Like Mr. He wants to beat people up, but
it's so strange how these guys are like
damn good people, creators, writers of it. You know.
Now, it's funny. I met Matt Hawkins convention, and I gave him a copy of my book, and he gave me copies of his book. He's a real nice guy. So I don't think it's like, and he didn't seem like he was like some kind of ideologue. So I don't think like he's I think it's just like a thing of the system of like it's just everyone's doing this now, and they just don't have the signals to tell them like, oh, there's an audience that wants them to go back to what they were doing, or yeah.
All I know is like, go ahead.
It might just be that it's just easier to do what everyone else is doing than to take the risk to go back, because you're like, what if we meet resistance? What if we get a whole bunch of crap from, you know? It was like, why not just do what everyone else is doing? This is what's popular. This is what the fad is. This is what comics are doing. So let's just go ahead and just do this, because this seems like what's the common thing to do now.
And it'll get you in the media. I mean, they'll promote your book, and because it'll hit the check marks that they want. I mean, whether it'll sell in the store, that's a different story. But they know that that's the system. Like, you do a book this way, you'll get offended by the media. It'll be out by Diamond, and that's it. But, you know.
Well, I think it's proven now that you look at these creators, is like they have books coming out that it's like, yeah, they get the kudos from like the news sites and it's well reviewed. But look at, would you rather have a well reviewed book that's critically praised or a book that sells a shit ton of units? You want the shit ton of units sold. It's like, and what sells more than anything? Controversy. Like, hey, a book. Oh, this is a Eisner nominated book.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it. The only reason you heard about it because it's Eisner nominated. Somebody mentions that. That's the first thing they fucking mention. But in doing so, it's like, you know, you look at a comic. If they said, I think what happened is this: Top Cow, they get a lot of these companies get interns and other stuff, and a lot of people hire interns. They usually, people going for internships are not usually male. That's just, it seems like a lot of the entertainment industry stuff, it's a lot of females, and that's what it seems like. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Where's your facts, Larry? That's just a wild guess. But look at it this way: it's like if two people were going up for a job, would you rather have around the office a bunch of women or a bunch of men? It's like, you know, like mentioning of hentai and boxes full of porn and beer farms and stuff like that, or would you rather have women? Even if you're not going to be a creep, it's just usually a much more mellow place for the most part.
Yeah.
But say like, you know, your company, like you're used to doing stuff like Cyberforce, where, you know, Cyblade, she's got like, it's basically one piece thong bikini with metal like leggings and everything, and then you had a character like Witchblade, and then what told me Top Cow has changed when they have the new writers on Witchblade, and they work fully covering, you know, the Witchblade. She's going to be fully covered and armored to get away from the male gaze and everything. They're stepping away from that. Maybe in a way they have become to either through their own volition or through outside forces have come to feel ashamed of the past of Top Cow, like where they'd have sexy women, you know, and then they would eventually, you know, like they're taking advantage, even though like, I call bullshit on that. They're not real. You're not taking advantage of anyone. I knew women that enjoyed Witchblade. I knew men.
It was written by a woman.
Most of the time, yes. Christina Z.
Yeah.
And even like I've heard some people say, "Oh, her name was slapped on the book so they can get away with it." It's like, okay, and if that's the case, I still enjoyed it. It's like, it doesn't hold up probably that well, but whatever. But to go and do that, like, if they said, you know what, we're going back, you know, Top Cow, we were born in the 90s, we're going back to the 90s. Sexy women, kick-ass comics. How much fucking units would they sell? People like, holy shit, nobody else is doing this. Nobody's doing this. I mean, God bless Rags, but even that right there is like, that's one. I'm like, hey, that's fine. That's one against how many? It's like you got a house on fire. Rags has got one bucket. Not even a bucket. He's got a wet washcloth. He's like wringing it out of the fire. It's like, but it's like, but that's the thing. It's like, so if you imagine Top Cow saying, we're bringing, like, oh God, help me saying this. We're bringing sexy back. I'm sorry, but yeah, exactly. I like Witchblade, Natasha. Yes, thank you. Yes. But and I can confirm Natasha is not a dude.
Yeah, they could pick at least one book to do that for, right? They could try it as an experiment. Take one book and then do it like how you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And see how well it does, and embrace the fact that you're going to get slammed for it. But here's the thing: ink is ink, and getting that name out there, and people like, you need to not buy this book. That's horrible. So you're going to get people that are not already not buying the book to buy it, or to avoid it. I mean. And then people that hadn't heard of the book will hear about it. It's like, oh, I want to piss people off, so I'll buy it. I know a lot of people buy books that just piss people off, but then turn out to enjoy it. That happens.
Yeah.
But guess what? If it's a good comic, or at least fun, it doesn't have to be the next Watchmen. But dear God, it can be a fun comic that goes back to the heyday. It's like that exists. Like that's why it kills me. I should have never thought of like you doing the work for Cyberforce or something, because I joke, but damn it, it's like,
hey man, I'll take the call. But I'm not gonna do no pace for trade thing. But I mean, like, no the talking head version of Cyberforce. I'm gonna do the real deal.
I'll take a
Please
producer
put
credit.
Ballistic back to how she looked originally.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh man,
yes.
like it was just funny. Your comment, like, and whoever this is in the left corner, I don't know who this is. I was like, oh man, wait till I break it to him and tell him that's Ballistic. He's gonna be so sad.
They took away her boobs. What the fuck?
They took away everything.
They give the fucked up hair, and it's like, like.
Now I never read this book. I didn't read it. I mean, what was wrong with it? Like,
okay, I'll give you the full breakdown. Now, Cyberforce, the comic, it's basically a bunch of cybernetic individuals. Like I said, you read the comics.
Yeah.
So like for those who haven't, it's basically a bunch of cybernetic individuals. They're fighting, not fighting Cyberdyne, but it's close enough. It's like, but they're going up against forces that are trying to reel them in because they're kind of rogue elements. People want to use their cybernetics to rule the world. Basically, it's like that. So this comic, it starts out. It's basically at a computer corporation that gets attacked by a terrorist. The woman doesn't kill the dude, kills the Striker. The dude with 3 arms. This is before he has the 3 arms. Shoots him in the chest, and then the arm blows his arm off. So leaves him in a critical condition. So he gets put on life support, and the woman goes and attacks this mysterious assassin woman. I guess it's supposed to be, it might be supposed to be Ballistic. Who the fuck knows? It might be her, but he's like fully covered, and like they waste a double-page spread of just her with 2 guns out. It's like the worst fucking thing. And so it's most of the comic is her like threatening the world, kind of Zod from Man of Steel kind of deal, where like, for all you people, you're sheep and whatever, like multiple pages. Then you see Stryker in the hospital, and then his daughter, which is Velocity, in a wheelchair, and like basically she signs away like we can save your father if you sign away this little thing and like, make it okay because you're got guardianship over him, power of attorney. So they give him the cybernetic implants, and he's like pissed off because he didn't want to be a machine, part monster, whatever. And so they give her legs, but they just stand around and talk about sit or stand and talk. That's it for the entire issue. For 20 pages, just talking
by Tio Rojo.
Yeah,
horrible. I'm actually. This is bad, and I do not advocate pirating anything. But I had to just go and just like I'm going through it right now just to look at it, and I'm just like, thank goodness I didn't spend money on this guy because I was about to pre-order it, and I would have been so pissed. I would have been one of those angry people ranting, yelling at Matt Hawkins, be like, dude, I pre-ordered your book, and this is what you give me.
Look, that's the thing. It's like I can understand people being like, on the fence, like looking at it. It's like it's probably not gonna be that good, but like, okay, I'll give it a chance. And then actually reading it, it's like, fuck, I shouldn't have given this a chance. It doesn't deserve the chance. It's squandered that chance. And Cyberforce like really is that kind of has that Japanese influence to it. It has to. The designs and everything, the way the cities look and everything, like the way it's done, and especially Kenneth Rocafort. You can't say the guy doesn't have some. Japanese like anime.
Dude, him on the X-Men, like I'm still mad that you brought that up because every time I look at his art, or Dexter Soy, like you saw that X-23, like if Dexter Soy would have been on a Cable or X-Force, that would have been amazing.
I'm sorry, like it's like that dream of having Matt Kent writing and Kenneth Rocafort drawing X-Men. Oh, it hurts.
Like, and I've never like Dexter Soy, I like his stuff on Red Hood and the Outlaws, but it almost seems like he tones down his style for that book because I've seen his other stuff when he goes all out and it looks like something from Machine and manga. I'm telling you, like I sent you some of his stuff. Like
that's what's so crazy about it. It's like a lot of these people, like Kenneth Rocafort's art. Like I've seen it before. I enjoyed it before, but in seeing Cyberforce Hunter Killer, that trade, and then looking at it there, it's like like, for the love of God, like, he clearly is a fan of Castlevania because there's a design.
The beast, yeah.
The creature. Yeah, and I was like, that's some shit. That's some fucking Dracula Castlevania shit. And it's like, but it's done in such a respectful way. It's not done in a, like, I'm gonna take the piss out of this kind of thing. But his work has never looked better in that book. It's like he gave that book his all, and even like Red Hood and Outlaws. It was okay, but it was not his best. Like that, the New 52, which he got a lot of shit for, which it wasn't his fault. His one didn't write. He didn't write fucking Starfire being like, oh, I'm very forgetful. I don't remember anything. Like the bimbo, they wrote her like the bimbo and everything.
Yeah,
and she was never like that in the comics. But this, like, the New 52, it's new and different. Like, fuck you. But yeah, it's like you're dealing with sometimes that Eastern and Western clash. And like there was comics, what was it named? Red Ronin. It was like this kind of giant, like basically Manzinger kind of deal. Like Iron Giant, not Iron Giant, Tetsujin 28, Gigantor kind of deal for Marvel. And they've had stuff like that in the past, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in doing so, it's like, you gotta try, but they don't even bother trying anymore.
Aphrodite 5 book looks like hot trash.
And written by the guy who co-wrote with Matt Hawkins on Cyberforce. So
yeah, I didn't tell because my friend, he has all the collections of like the stuff from like the late 90s, early 2000s. That original Aphrodite 9 run or whatever.
Oh yeah, the David Finch. Yep.
Yeah, if I showed him this, he'd be like, he would get ticked off. He'd be like, "What is this? What is?" He's like, I was like, "This is Aphrodite." He's like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "Yeah, it says right." It's like, I don't care what they slapped on the cover of that book. That is not what that is. I don't know what that is.
The original Aphrodite 9 miniseries, it's straight up Final Fantasy. There is no way around it. It's fucking Final Fantasy. It's like the designs and everything, the way that everything's so. It's supposed to be futuristic technology, that kind of thing, but it's so fantastical. Mm-hmm. It's that 90s bad girl stuff mixed with Final Fantasy, and it works. It's like that, look, it's more like Final Fantasy 6 than Final Fantasy 7. It's like pre-cloud and pre Squall and everything. But there's nothing wrong with taking those influences, but like
it's like they were driving on that road, and then they sort of taken off on a side road that they shouldn't have gone on. Like, should get back.
They got lost in the woods. Yeah,
they're in the wrong timeline. You know what I mean? They should have been on the timeline that goes more into what they were doing before. Like, think of all the what year did that Aphrodite come out? Like, that was like
2000,
99, 2000. Yeah, around that.
Yeah, I think there's probably an alternate dimension where they kept going in that direction, and now like the art looks like something probably so amazing you wouldn't even be able to describe it now with the Western and Eastern influences together.
Oh my God, that'd be beautiful. Like that's one of those things. It's like and a lot of people, when they do, like, they kind of take influence from Japan or whether it be China or anything like that, they get a little too literal. Like they'll bring in like the Onis and everything and certain things like that. And it's like, no, like, you could take stuff like that, but without being too on the nose.
Not like the Mangaverse. Remember the Mangaverse from Marvel? It was
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that. Well, that right there, like when the Avengers one was fine, but they did a second version of it, and it was just, oh, what the fuck is this? It's like, like, I know they did the one where Spider-Man, he was just like kind of living in a village or something, like that kind of thing or whatever. He's like some ninja or some shit like that. But it's like, it's so forgettable for the most part, and I guess it would work in one point and another, but they went too literal. They went too stereotypical, and it hurt. It hurt the product. And like, imagine a Spider-Man book along the lines of like Astro Boy, kind of very clean lines, very straightforward, but knowing me, I'd probably get, if I had my way, my Spider-Man book would end up like Wicked City. Or worst yet, Ninja Scroll, because it's like, oh no, Mary Jane got captured by the evils of the dark. Oh no. That's horrible what happened to that what was her name? The poison tester from Ninja Scroll.
Oh yeah.
And it's like everything that bad could happen to a character. It's like when people say, he hates women, like that. Like, I'm pretty sure Kawajiri kind of hates women. Every woman, like, everything bad happens to him, and like, look at Ninja Scroll, look at Vampire Knight Bloodlust, look at Wicked City. Everything that could happen to a woman badly, it happens. Like electrocuted, cut in halves.
He's a nut.
He's a nut. Yeah.
He's a nut, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are nuts, man.
I think for like just even like a lot of this other stuff, just take the things that work, but don't like you mentioned, don't just completely rip it off.
Exactly.
Add something new to it. But I don't know. I just feel like no one can really do fresh ideas. Of course, you can't do it the big two. But like, I honestly, first of all, it's editorials has got to be like just removed from Marvel. That's the only way that's going to happen, right? But which it probably won't, because Brevort's been there forever. He's probably gonna die at Marvel. Like, he's probably never gonna leave. He's gonna be some 80-year-old man with like a motorized chair, still going to work. It's like, nope, I'm gonna die at this desk. This is my office. I'm gonna die on this hill. But I know that I would love to have a Spider-Man book with Lee Weeks art. Have Lee Weeks art on it,
that'd be great.
and then kind of just have it where Peter Parker, he's an adult or whatever.
Yeah.
Just and I know he's grown, but I mean, like, actually act like an adult. Don't act like a man child. You know what I'm saying? have a stable job, a reasonably stable job. He doesn't have to be like, just wealthy or whatever, because they tried that and it failed. They made him a genius tech billionaire, but he was an idiot. Like, he walked around to give a presentation, his fly was unzipped, and somebody's like, "Oh, your fly's unzipped. I can, see your boxers. His pants fell off, like, in front of everybody." Like, they just dance slot. But anyway, they would, you can have him like be a consultant for some R&D departments with these, genetic, companies or something like that, and have him just move around the world, do that, but don't make him just be this loser constantly, couch surfing, at everybody's house and just can't get his crap together. Be a 35-year-old guy that can't get his crap together. Just stop doing that. Have him move on, grow up, and please just let him and Mary Jane get together. Everybody wants that. Why is this such? It's like they hate marriage. Everybody hates marriage. Everybody else's marriage. Joe Quesada's marriage fell apart. I don't even know. Is Dan Slott even married? He's not, right?
Probably not.
Okay. Everybody, like, it's just, they're so miserable. They're like, we're never. And people say, well, how dare you think that they would do something like that? I'm like, well, the crap that they've done in past shows that they're bitter people. Why else would you not have that happen?
No. I like to see the guys who did Luther Strode do like X-Men, something like that. Trad Moore, those Luther Strode.
Oh yeah, I actually read the first volume, and I enjoyed what it was. It was like because it was basically Flex Mentallo.
Yeah,
the comic Flex Mentallo, where hero of the beach, and it's basically that. They said, okay, and then he did the next comic he did was it was Lone Wolf and Cub with mutants, and like a kind of mutant apocalypse kind of thing. I was like, all right, I see what you're doing. A little too thinly veiled. It was like that. I forget the name of it. It was like, hey, remember the movie The Road? Lone Wolf and Cub, and like mutants and weird creatures. So yeah, basically, it's The Mist meets The Road meets Lone Wolf and Cub, and that's basically the comic. That's nothing else to it. And it was kind of disappointing. It's like, I enjoyed Luther Strode the first volume, but after that, I was like, okay, I don't need no more. And I know they did 2 more volumes after that, 2 more series. And I was like, I'm going to avoid these. And it was like one of those deals. But the
art was fantastic.
Well, the art's like, it was that over exaggerated kind of. You know what it reminded me of? What was the name? Was it Ultimate Muscle? Was that one?
Oh yeah, Ultimate Muscle. Yeah.
Yeah, the art kind of reminded me of that, kind of over top. The physiques and everything. Just
right.
Like the fingers.
Hey guys, not to interrupt, but I'm gonna have to pack it in for the day.
Yeah, same here. Because I feel like I got a desert in my throat from all the talking and lack of beverages. But
beverages, yeah.
So thank you for those joining us in chat. Thank you, Braylon. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it a lot. Hope this was enjoying for those who stuck with us this long. And until next time, this is Larry King and Co. signing off. Good night and good luck.